Good evening, everyone. We humbly acknowledge the land we live, learn, work, and play is Treaty 8 territory, traditional lands of the Cree Dene, unceded territory of the Métis people. For the record, we have Councillor Marcel joining us online. And if you have your camera turned on for voting purposes, Councillor Marcel, thank you. If anyone in attendance wishes to address council on any of the upcoming agenda items, please register with Legislative Services to the right of me. You'll have 5 minutes to present. Please start by saying your name for the record and stay seated for questions following that. Our first order of business tonight is a presentation from the Mayor's Advisory Council on Youth. I'd like to invite members of McCoy to present, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Lisa Simple. I'm the Chair of Mayor's Advisory Council on Youth, and I'm joined today by Dorota, Josefa, and Nerva. We wish to provide you with our annual McCoy report, where we're going to outline what we have done and what we have learned from it. This year, McCoy has decided to divide its members into 4 separate committees. Each was assigned a specific task, which you will hear more in depth later in the presentation. So we're going to go through the introduction of what McCoy is, our goals, our impact, as well as distinction of those 4 committees and our future goals.
McCoy is a youth-led council made up of young people from across the region. Its main purpose is to amplify youth voices and make sure youth perspectives are represented in conversations with RMWB. McCoy works closely with the municipality to discuss issues that affect young people and to bring forward student and youth perspectives. In that way, McCoy helps bridge the gap between youth and local government. McCoy matters because it gives youth a platform to share their ideas and perspectives in a setting where those voices can actually be heard. It also helps ensure that youth are included in local decision-making, especially on issues that affect students and young people in the community. Another important part of McCoy is that it connects youth with municipal leaders, community organizations, and volunteer opportunities. This helps members become more involved in the community while also promoting positive change through youth-led initiatives.
Our goals. Throughout this McCoy year and its overall history, the program aims to and has aimed to foster the voices of youth within our community, build leadership opportunities, skills, and positive changes, and growth in our shared community and region. Our impacts on McCoy and with McCoy have a large span within our community that we work on and hope to see grow each year. We as a group host McCoy meetings to share, collaborate, and discuss about any issues, initiatives, and concerns within the community. We also attend council meetings at the Municipal Council Chamber to better educate ourselves about our own local government and see firsthand how decisions are made and influenced. We collaborate with many special and educational guests, speakers, and leaders and provide our insight on opportunities, initiatives, projects, and events.
As a newer addition to McCoy, the Promotions Committee was created to help increase awareness and engagement around McCoy's initiatives, events, and opportunities. Our main focus is making sure that youth across the region know what McCoy is, what we do, and how they can get involved. A lot of our work connects to communication and outreach, whether that is helping update municipal communication channels, sharing opportunities with students, or supporting stronger connections with schools. This year, one of our main projects was creating a promotional video in collaboration with the RMWB's Communications Department. The goal of the video was to introduce McCoy in a more engaging way and encourage more youth across the region to apply. We have also been working closely with the High School Liaison Committee to support outreach in local schools. This is important as schools are one of the best ways to directly connect with students, making McCoy more visible. Lastly, our committee helped lead the refresh and redesign of the McCoy website, helping the website look more appealing and updating relevant information. Overall, the Promotions Committee played an important role in helping McCoy become more visible, accessible, and connected to youth across the region, ensuring that more students are aware of McCoy's work and the opportunities available to them.
We also have a rural engagement team where we focus on getting to know youth from rural regions to understand how different parts of our community interact and what they need. We mostly do rural communities like Anzac, Janvier, Conclave, Fort Chipewyan, and Fort McKay. We do this by planning, preparing rural engagements, connecting with youth, and discussing their questions and concerns, as well as what McCoy is and how being part of it is important. For each rural community, we plan different activities that would create a positive and safe environment for us to connect with youth, and at the end of the engagements, we would lead a discussion about their community. So we visited each community at least once. Our main purpose was to learn about rural communities and their youth, explain the purpose of McCoy, and of course, encourage youth to join for the next cycle. We visited schools and youth centers. Our activities included beadwork, painting flower pots, and board games. Our more physical activities included yoga, running, and playing hide and seek with younger population. Through these multiple engagements, we were able to talk about likes, dislikes, hopes, and dreams. We also helped them to see McCoy as a tool of learning about how to effectively address their concerns and why their voice matters to our community. As a part of our visits with youth in rural communities, we held discussions with them to find out what is the best part of their community, what they would want to see for the next visit, and what changes or additions they would like to see in their community. So, common answers for the best part of their communities were friends and family, treaty days and other similar events, the ring, restaurant, school, and youth center. Common answers for the next visit plans for the community were bring fast food as a meal, bring fidget toys, and play more sports like volleyball. And lastly, common answers for what they would like to change or add were water parks, have more play-designated places, youth-friendly businesses like movie theaters, more job opportunities for youth, and more public opportunities. Additionally, in Janvier specifically, we have experienced an overwhelming desire and need expressed by youth for the municipality to provide more safe spaces for them to engage with, like a hockey ring or volleyball court.
On McCoy this year, we also have a high school liaison committee. This committee's main focus was spreading the word about McCoy and how youth can make an impact in ways just like McCoy, even if they're not part of it. Throughout the year, we have gone to multiple schools and offered 2 different presentations to the youth. One presentation was on how to join McCoy and one for alternative opportunities instead of McCoy. So this would be like volunteering, the Pulse Line, and participate.rmwb.ca. We visited many schools to share these presentations. These schools included Holy Trinity, Father Mercady, McTavish, Westwood, Composite, Frank Spraggins, and Homeschooled Youth, which we accessed through virtual presentations. Our goal with these presentations was and is to empower youth so they know they have opportunities to share and use their voice meaningfully to better their community and to increase McCoy interest and recruitment. We presented these presentations ourselves because we believed a youth-to-youth approach would most likely stick with the youth in schools than someone else, since youth can better connect to someone they know than someone they don't. For the first presentation, we targeted McCoy alternatives and included many good resources they can use to make positive impacts in their community. These examples were listed above. The second presentation was specifically for McCoy recruitment. Our main goal with this slideshow was to see an increase in McCoy applications and share the opportunity with youth across the region. For this second presentation, we also partnered with the McCoy Promotions Committee. This committee helped create a promotions poster and present the slideshow at the separate schools they attended. Our idea behind partnering up with this committee was to reach more classes when we presented, and we did in fact reach our goal. Overall, we did not reach every single class from every single school, but we did the majority from each, leaving us to be successful overall. Youth engagement in the different presentations was quite high, with many youth asking questions and answering our questions. They also seemed interested in the participate.rmwb.ca website specifically. In conclusion, the High School Liaison Committee of the 2025 to 2026 McCoy season was successful, and we hope to see more engagement from youth in our community.
The Volunteer Committee helps plan and organize volunteer opportunities for McCoy members throughout the year. We also support events and bring in guest speakers to help members learn more about community involvement and leadership. This year, we welcomed speakers from Fuse Social, Arts Council with Buffalo, and trustees from both school boards. We also organized McCoy's holiday parties. Our main goal is to increase youth engagement through volunteerism while helping members build leadership, communication, and professional skills. Throughout the year, our committee helped create opportunities for McCoy members to get involved in the community and take on leadership roles. Some of the volunteer opportunities included Santa's Village, Art for Social Change, Council Starry Night, and the Spring Food Drive. These events allowed members to give back to the community while developing teamwork, planning, and project management skills.
And lastly, our future goals include continuously working on increasing our connection with youth, diversifying our group, and pushing for more engagement in decision-making. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you all for listening, and now we would be happy to take any questions.
Super, thank you. And thanks for the presentation. You guys all did awesome. Great job. I want to just mention to everybody that you guys have done a lot of work over the last year. I've seen it, and I've seen all the engagement you've done, and you have people talking about McCoy. So that's something that hasn't happened in a long time. So last year's group, this year's group, hats off. You guys did an amazing job. Good job. Question from Council, Councilor Vardy.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Thank you so much for the presentation. I had an opportunity to meet with McCoy last month, and it was so refreshing, but also very scary. The questions were, you guys have very hard questions. So I have two questions. My first one is about connecting to the rural. One of the goals that I would like is to have someone from McCoy represented in each of our rural areas. Do you think that's possible, and how could we do that?
Through the chair to the question, as someone who was on rural engagement team, I believe it is essential to include youth from rural regions. I'm not quite sure what it would look like. Definitely allocation for financial resource in that area, 100%. Whether it's going to be virtual meetings. I mean, obviously physical presence would be preferred because it provides more inclusivity and more fairness to really understand the youth voice and their needs, because different parts of communities, they have different needs, and everyone is important, and we need to hear everybody out.
Awesome. I appreciate that. That was one of my comments, was making sure that we can support people if they live in Anzac, for example, to have the money to get here. My second question is, what can council or mayor as a whole do to better support McCoy?
Through the chair to the question, I think that to better support McCoy, your guys' presence when you guys come to our meetings, our monthly meetings, it really has an impact. And even when McCoy in the future, when we plan to have other engagements, having counselors and the mayor present there, it really has an impact on the youth, since they know that there is a direct connection between the youth and the municipality. So, yeah.
Great answers.
Thank you.
Councilor Cardinal.
Thank you. I remember when I first started on council, the rural was obviously a big thing that I have always advocated for, and it's great to see that you guys are engaging more with the rural residents, and it's good to see all that. But I guess my first question would be, how often are we visiting McCoy visiting the rural communities?
Through the chair to the question. So this year we have visited every community at least once. For the next year, I would hope we can do twice or as much as we can. It takes a lot to plan the activities, find the resources as well, to find places. But yeah.
Thank you. What are the similar rural barriers for McCoy reps from the rural to sit with you guys in the community here? Like, is there any participation from the rural, from like other students at other high schools?
Through the chair to the question, as of right now, we don't have a direct representative from rural community. However, I do think it has to do with a barrier in terms of transportation and just, to be honest, fear for not being heard and understood, especially when we went to Janvier. A lot of people, a lot of youth were really hesitant to speak, and because they were afraid that we would not be open-minded, which I think that's the biggest barrier. Hopefully next year, judging by the meetings and engagement that we've done, a lot of students were really actively trying to apply when we said, hold on, just a bit more and you can. So hopefully we'll see more representation next upcoming cycle.
Cool. So is it fair to say that we have a format in place to have rural representation at this time?
Through the chair to the question, unfortunately, I don't have that specific information. We have Elise and Nicole present today with us, who will be able to provide you with that detail.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Keep up the good work, and it's inspiring to see you guys doing all the stuff you're doing. So appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Councilor Cardinal. Councilor Weigel.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. I love coming to the meetings, talking with you. Your engagement is amazing. I love how interested and in-depth the questions are. It's awesome. Outside of the rural engagement, where do you guys think where you saw the best promotion of getting into the community? I've heard about McCoy so much. I've heard it with the homeschoolers. You guys had somebody from homeschooling on your McCoy, and so you are getting out there and getting noticed. What do you think is the biggest impact urbanly or within the urban area?
Through the chair to the question, I think the biggest impact that McCoy has had would probably be just like, first of all, getting out there, giving the opportunity for youth to have their voice, create changes, like impacts. And as you said, we do have some homeschooled youth, which is a big improvement because last year we didn't have homeschooled youth. And we've been seeing more schools like Frank Spragan's being added. So that's really great. Like getting out there, like promoting it, like on websites, like on the RMWB website, from youth to youth, like people talking about it. Those are some impacts that we have had and we have seen from youth, just like getting the program out there. For specific impacts, we've seen many like volunteer opportunities as well arise from this, and we've seen like some people get like not even just like on McCoy, but have their like friends volunteer as well or join them and stuff like that.
That's awesome. And I remember when you guys were at doing the Santa's workshop, huge voice there. You guys crushed it. So thank you. What would, and anybody can answer, but what was one of the biggest impacts that you had during it? Like what was one of the biggest things that stood out for you during this year?
So one of the biggest things that stood out to me was just the exposure to the whole community that we have, and especially how we work with them. We got to know so many different aspects of the community. It was just amazing, and especially with the different committees that we formed. This was the first time McCoy did it in a couple of years, but with different committees, we were able to tackle on a lot of different issues at once, rather than everyone just kind of being a general member.
Right.
So it was amazing.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for all you guys do. You guys are making a big difference. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I just want to say what a great presentation you all did. And I hope it's not too far off till one of you or all of you are sitting behind these chairs, maybe the big chair. You certainly are well qualified, and I'm seeing great leadership in this community on this table right here. So thank you. Very well done.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Boussier.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Thank you for the presentation, you four. I appreciate it. I see in the report, we have it, but it was also up there, the feedback from rural youth and what they find is gaps and needs. What have you heard from urban youth?
Through the chair to the question, so when we did the presentations in schools, which is the main source of where we gathered all this information, most youth... Sorry, could you repeat just what you asked?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what you're hearing from the youth in town about what they feel is missing to have a fulfilling life in our community.
Yeah, so many youth, they really expressed more. We saw more just like engagement on the participative side, like inputting concerns. We didn't have much time because we tried to hit as many presentations. I don't know exactly the specific different answers from the other schools, but from my school, what we've seen, many youth just wanted to see like improvements in certain things like transit especially, which was really a hot topic. And they also expressed issues for the roads, which was something. And just overall, I feel like the youth, they didn't have any specific like concerns on something that they wanted better. They just wanted to see like, just keep growing our community as is and just, I guess, keep providing spaces for them, which is something that some of the youth have said. That's just really all they really had as feedback.
Okay. Do you ever hear anything, this to any of you, about the supports that youth in need have in the community or have access to, mental health supports? Do you ever hear those kind of things, like not feeling like they have safe spaces or safe people to go to?
Through the chair to the question, Yes, as a student who's graduating, I did have a lot of people come up to me and ask about mental health supports, about transit, as it was mentioned, and a lot of things regarding social media, for example. So I try to help as much as I can, but sometimes in schools there's still this lack of, how would I say this, open-mindedness. And a lot of people, maybe there is resources that people can use, but they're more uninformed or they're afraid to reach out and talk. That would be the main concern for sure.
Okay, and then, so if you're in that situation where a peer comes to you and they're not sure and you're not sure, is that where you use Nicole and Elise? Like you would go, what format do you have in place to make sure you get that information to your peer who's looking?
Through the chair to the question, it really depends on the issue. If it's, let's say, mental health, I would reach out to the school counselor, for example,
Okay.
or other school representative, or I'll just give the resources. Or at school right now, we finally have mental health lists where you can find the resources that you need. If it's more related to the council, for example, a lot of people ask me about McCoy, for example, how to apply and how to do that. Obviously, I'll give contact information for Nicole, or I'll just give the website as well.
Okay. Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Boussier. Councilor Vardy?
Thank you, Mayor Bowen. Not a question to you, a comment to administration. CAO, we have a policy, LEG 070, which is a council-appointed committee travel money for members. Would you mind connecting that policy with McCoy so we can address that gap of rural representation?
Through the chair to the ask, we will take that away and make sure that it's dealt with. Thank you, Councilor Vardy.
Thanks, Councilor Vardy. I just want to also comment, Councilor Boussier asked about getting hold of, some of you have actually emailed me directly about transit concerns, so thank you. About overcrowding, stuff like that, so they also email me, so it's good to see that. Councilor Cardinal?
Yeah, one last thing. I'm curious as to who gets the emails for invites to some of your engagements.
Through the chair to the question, we don't have that information on hand. You will have to clarify with Nicole or Elise regarding that.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Councilor Cardinal. Well, thank you all. Are there any questions that you're prepped for that we didn't ask you? No, you're good? Perfect. Well, thank you all so much. You guys did an awesome job this year. Thanks. Now I'll move on to the public hearing for bylaw number 26/017, Draper Area Structure Plan. Before declaring hearing opened, there's an overview of the process. The hearing will be declared open, followed by an introduction of the item by administration and questions from council. We'll then move on to written submissions and hear from verbal submissions from any speakers present, followed by questions of council. To finish off, we'll hear closing statements, then the hearing will be declared closed. I hereby declare the public hearing open at 5:27 p.m. I'd like to invite Plan Development Service to provide an introduction and opening statement, please. Whenever you guys are ready, Amanda.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Amanda Owens, Director of Planning and Development Services, and with me this evening is Isaiah Contreras-Dogby, and who's the Manager of Development Planning, and Shailish Makwana, our Supervisor with Development Planning. We are here to present the proposed Draper Area Structure Plan, bylaw number 26017. This plan applies to all lands within Draper and establishes policies to guide future development in the area. An area structure plan, known as ASP, is a tool that municipalities adopt under Section 633 of the Municipal Government Act. It serves as a high-level policy document guiding the overall vision and framework for future development over a 10 to 15-year time horizon. These plans ensure that growth happens in a coordinated way and in alignment with community input. The proposed Draper ASP is guided by an established planning framework in front of you. At the highest level, the Municipal Government Act establishes the legislative authority and requirements for preparing and adopting an ASP by Municipal Council. In addition, the Government of Alberta's Lower Athabasca Regional Plan, known as LARP, provides regional direction on environmental, economic, and social impacts of resource development. At the municipal level, our Municipal Development Plan, or MDP, sets out the overall vision and long-term economic growth strategy for the entire region and informs all ASPs. The areas surrounding Draper are also guided by ASPs, including the Highway 69 Clearwater River Valley Area Structure Plan, the Sailing Creek Plateau Area Structure Plan, and Fort McMurray Regional Airport Area Structure Plan. These neighboring plans were considered to ensure that growth is coordinated, infrastructure connections are aligned, and development occurs in a consistent and integrated manner across the region. Finally, the Land Use Bylaw, or LUB, is the tool to regulate the development in alignment with the ASP. The newly approved LUB is in alignment with this plan presented before you this evening. Currently, Draper does not have a dedicated ASP to guide its development. Instead, the area is guided by the Highway 69 and Clearwater River Valley Area Structure Plan, which was originally adopted in 2000. While that plan has been amended over time, the existing policy framework is outdated. In response, the proposed Draper ASP addresses and establishes a more current and area-specific vision that considers the community's interest and is aligned to our new MDP. Engagement for the Draper ASP initially began back in 2009 with phased open houses and stakeholder meetings. Over many years of on and off again engagements, the ASP draft was finalized in April of 2016. However, following the wildfire in 2016, the plan was placed on hold. Engagement resumed in 2019 and focused on confirming the community's vision and priorities for Draper. This phase included additional open houses, stakeholder meetings, an ASP survey, and the posting of a draft online for feedback. However, it was again placed on hold following the 2020 flood. Engagement was reinitiated in 2022 and 2024 alongside the MDP and LUB engagements. This phase focused on confirming draft policies and land use concepts. These efforts included online surveys, open house participation, and door-to-door visits, ensuring that a broad range of community perspectives were captured and reflected throughout the planning process. An online project page was also maintained throughout the process. In the most recent engagement, 51 households within Draper were directly contacted and invited to participate in 2024. Over the past 10 years, many opportunities were provided to residents to provide input, which included 6 broader public engagement initiatives, 8 open houses, door-to-door visits, an online project page that included 3 surveys, virtual open houses, and project info. Over the last 16 years, there have been over 400 resident interactions specific to the Draper ASP. These efforts reflect a comprehensive and multi-channel approach to engagement. Key findings show that 86% of respondents expressed a desire to protect the Clearwater River, reinforcing the importance of environmental stewardship in planning decisions. 91% of participants supported guiding appropriate development, indicating that residents are open to growth but want it to be carefully managed. 81% want to maintain the existing development pattern in Draper, preserving the current character of the area. 95% support ensures that community safety is a top priority. 97% support active and healthy lifestyles, highlighting the importance of accessing the outdoors year-round. However, only 44% of respondents supported improving access to the Clearwater River. Finally, 86% supported providing infrastructure that meets municipal standards for rural areas, highlighting the need for reliable and appropriate servicing within the community. The proposed land use concept for the Draper area illustrates how future development is intended to be organized across the community. The layout of the plan considers existing topography, river elevations, and infrastructure connections, providing a balanced approach that supports development while preserving the environmental and rural qualities that are important to the Draper community. The concept is centered on two primary land use designations. The first is country residential, which is intended to support low-density residential development that integrates with the natural environment, and it reflects the community's desire to maintain a rural character while still accommodating future growth. The uses allowed include single detached residential, home business, mobile home, agriculture, etc. It may also allow secondary suites. The second designation is the small holdings area, which is intended for residential acreage lots that can also support small-scale agricultural uses. The uses allowed include single detached residential, home business, mobile home, agriculture, etc. It may also allow bed and breakfast, secondary suites, and religious assembly. The plan also identifies open space and environmentally sensitive areas, particularly along the Clearwater, ensuring that natural features are protected and incorporated into the overall design. Administration is proposing 5 key priorities or principles that guide this Draper area structure plan and reflect what we heard from the community. The first is to preserve and protect the natural environment, particularly the Clearwater River corridor, which has historically shaped the community and continues to be one of its defining features. The plan emphasizes careful management of this heritage river and surrounding slopes to maintain environmental integrity. The second is to support appropriate development. Draper is identified as an area of stability where future growth must respect the existing rural character, development pattern, and natural constraints. Development may require technical studies, and there will be site-specific considerations for development to ensure it is environmentally responsible and compatible with the area. The third focuses on promoting community safety with consideration given to known risks for the community, such as wildfire, flooding, and slope stability. Implementing the recommendations of the wildfire mitigation strategy, incorporating fire smart recommendations for fire preparedness, and promoting public education will help mitigate these risks. The fourth principle is to provide for recreational, social, and cultural opportunities in the area. Draper's natural setting offers strong potential for outdoor recreation, and the plan aims to support active lifestyles through potential public access points to the Clearwater River, exploring the possibility of a multi-use community gathering space, and promoting the preservation and enhancement of cultural and historic resources in collaboration with Alberta Culture and Tourism. Finally, the fifth principle is to provide accessible and appropriate infrastructure. This includes maintaining safe and reliable community road access on Draper Road and ensuring that infrastructure meets municipal standards for rural areas while incorporating environmentally responsible practices. Together, these 5 principles form the foundation of the Draper ASP. Should Council approve the proposed Draper ASP this evening, it will establish the plan as the guiding framework for Draper, and it will be used to provide consistent direction when reviewing and evaluating development within the area. In the long term, the ASP is intended to be a living document that can respond to change. Periodic reviews and updates will be undertaken as needed to ensure that the plan remains relevant, effective, and aligned with evolving community priorities and conditions. Administration therefore recommends that Bylaw 26/017 be approved by Council. And this concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Owen. Appreciate the presentation. Before we go to my colleague, just one quick question. Does the ASP affect land use bylaws and permitted use in that area?
Through the chair to the question, the hierarchy of plans right here on this pyramid The land use bylaw is sort of like the last step in regulating. So the land use bylaw needs to align with the area structure plan. So to answer your question, yes, they should impact each other because they should be consistent in their regulation.
Okay, so if this passes tonight, will that change any land use bylaws?
Through the chair to the question, this land use bylaw that was recently approved by council is in alignment with this draft area structure plan. There will be no required changes in the LUB.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Scott?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So I'm coming at this from a certain attitude that I've reviewed all the documents from beginning to end, and I got to say I do not believe this is appropriate for an ASP, and I'll start asking some questions, and you can. So my understanding of ASPs, my experience with ASPs, is that they're generally intended to coordinate future urban expansion, plan large, underdeveloped growth areas, establish transportation networks. I mean, that's right in the Municipal Government Act. Plan utility infrastructure or identify population growth areas. Would you agree with me that none of those are present in this situation?
Through the chair to the question or the statement, an ASP is intended to guide future growth. This area doesn't have an area structure plan to guide its growth, and this helps establish what development could look like if it was to take place in that area, and the nature of the community and what the residents want to maintain in that area.
You'd agree with me that you don't need an ASP for every area.
That's correct. You do not legally, under the MGA, require an ASP for every area. If you are to adopt one, though, you have to follow the regulation and the guidelines in the MGA.
Yeah, this is completely optional, and it's what I would call a perfect example of a government saying we can run your life better than residents can, and imposing rules that shouldn't be there, in my view. Right in the MGA itself, it says it's a framework. This is section 633.1. It's a framework for subsequent subdivision and development. When I look at the document you've created, there is no development. It essentially freezes development. It sterilizes most of the land from what I can see.
I would just ask Councillor Scott just to have questions right now and we can get into debate.
Would you
later.
agree with that?
No, I do not agree with that.
So I'll just pull out one of the many sections, 1.2.2. Whip that out. Maybe you could read that to everybody.
You want me to read it?
Sure.
1.1.2?
1.2.2. Page 55.
So this falls under objective 1.2, which is the heading is respect the integrity of the natural environment. And this policy applies to open space and environmentally sensitive areas as outlined in map 7. So this is for a specific area within Draper, not the entire area of Draper. And 1.2.2 says undeveloped land shall remain undisturbed and activities including but limited to excavation, cutting, compaction, and filling are not allowed.
Yeah, that's just one of many examples throughout this document where land is effectively sterilized. And I'm not seeing why we have to sterilize land as a municipal government. Don't the residents there have the ability to make choices and determine a path forward for development?
Through the chair to the question, so this particular statement that I read is in relation to open space and environmentally sensitive areas. It's not in relation to all land within Draper. And the intention of an area structure plan is to guide responsible development within the area.
That's not what section 633 says. I realize that's what you're reinterpreting it as, but section 633, I just read it to you.
And we interpret it to mean that an area structure plan is intended to guide future development of an area, just like any other municipality in Alberta follows.
Most municipalities in Alberta do not have an area structure plan for a community the size of Draper. I realize we have initiated that in several areas, but this is quite unusual. Would you agree with that?
It's standard practice in Alberta to have area structure plans.
Not in this situation. I'll tell you when it is common, and you can agree or disagree. New suburbs, airport lands, industrial parks, or large future residential areas.
That's correct.
Okay. Do we have any of those situations going on here?
In terms of future areas,
Yeah. Why do we need an ASP if we don't fall into that kind of an example category?
so going back to what would have triggered this area structure plan, when we're looking at how development is approved or how communities are managed, even in terms of recreation, like this goes beyond, an area structure plan would go beyond just private development. It goes into discussions around servicing, and it goes into discussions around what the character of a community is. And we, within our region, we have area structure plans for certain areas within Fort McMurray, and we also have them for some of the rural areas. It has been standard practice for the RM to adopt area structure plans. And in fact, we have a project on our books right now for waterways where a motion or a part of a conversation in relation to area structure plans, there was a comment made that waterways should have one as well. And that is a project that we have on our books. It's our practice as a region to have these area structure plans to guide growth.
Okay. So I'll just take you through some other sections that I'm concerned about. There's many. I mean, I believe this document shouldn't be adopted, obviously, but 2.1.1 requires all development and subdivision applications to demonstrate consistency with ASP policies. And there's a lot of non-development policies. Would you agree with that?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. 2.1.1 requires all development and subdivision applications to demonstrate consistency with ASP policies, correct?
Yep.
And you'd agree with me that there are a fair number of restrictive policies within this document, is that correct?
To the chair to the question, I'd say that there are going to be areas that do restrict.
Like 2.1.4 says requires all development to be compatible with rural character.
2.1. No, mine says development in areas at risk from flooding shall make provisions for appropriate flood mitigation measures.
Okay. Would you agree that there's a section, maybe I got the number misidentified, but that requires all development to be compatible with rural character?
The gist of it is that through public engagement, that has been the desire of the residents that live in Draper to achieve what you just said.
Okay, who's going to interpret that?
And
That's
I think
where
we're
the
going
ASP
into almost debate, Councillor Scott. We can probably, once we get past the questions, we can.
What I want to point out is there's a lot of ambiguity in a lot of the phrases that are used. Would you agree with that?
In some of the phrases, there would be room for interpretation. And that's where the land use bylaw comes into play to establish the more specifics around what that would mean in practice.
Why is there restrictions on lot sizes?
Do you know why?
The lot sizes in the area structure plan are compatible with the restrictions in the land use bylaw for country residential and small holdings.
Why do we have to step in and do that?
Sorry, what's the question?
Yeah, if we restrict lot sizes, we're effectively restricting what people can do in the future with these properties.
Through the chair to the question, the feedback from the community over the years, over many, many years, has been that they wanted to maintain big acreage lots where they can develop the properties and have other activities in the community, and therefore the policy responds to that feedback.
Yeah, I just got to say, I truly believe that there's a lot of restrictive policies in this, and I'll obviously save it for debate, but I grabbed 8 just out of the hop, and I realize you're not presenting that now, but what I would suggest is when people make an application in the future, there are a ton of restrictions, and documents they have to produce. This is going to make the lives of people in Draper more expensive if they plan a development. Would you agree with that?
I would not agree with that.
That I would just suggest that's absurd. If you just look at the requirements when people have to produce documents to match this policy.
This area structure plan doesn't outline specific documents that are required for a development permit. That would be in the land use bylaw.
I would say that folks are going to have a very hard time. Do people realize that this is going to affect their house prices? I truly believe that. This is going to affect their land prices because people won't be able to do things with their land unless they get the blessing of planning and development, which has so much ambiguity built into it. I don't see how this can succeed.
Through the chair to the comment, so you could also look at it the other way. Like through community engagement, residents want certainty that the rural character of Draper is going to be preserved. There are residents in Draper who do have that sentiment, and there's quite a lot. And an area structure plan helps solidify what the definition or what the overall vision is for that area. And so it could also mean that it helps provide that type of character for the community. And when it comes to the lot sizes, that is in alignment with the same sentiment, that they want to preserve that acreage lifestyle and not have smaller lots that you see in more of an urbanized environment.
When you say a lot, what's the number of residents you're saying that want this?
My understanding is that there was 51 that were approached.
And out of the 51,
We have the different feedback. Sorry.
So I was just going to say 81% of the residents that we spoke to want to maintain the existing development pattern in Draper.
okay. The existing development pattern, so why do we need an ASP?
Through the chair to the question, if council doesn't want an ASP, we legally do not need an ASP. The ASP helps to solidify what the sentiment of that community is and what it looks like and helps provide guidance for future growth, but it is not something that we legally need.
Okay. You mentioned a few minutes ago that this is not going to make people's lives more expensive if they want to develop, but I'm just going to point out 2.1.6, and I'll just summarize it. At the discretion of the municipality, and depending on the scale of development, new subdivision development applications may require, and I'll just quickly summarize, A, a geotechnical study, B, a topographical plan, C, a site servicing plan prepared and certified by a qualified professional engineer, landscape plan, cultural and historical assessment. That just being an example of why we are putting a lot of restrictions. This is the government saying we know better.
So through the chair to that comment, what you just listed is established in the land use bylaw.
Then let it be in the land use bylaw.
So I would suggest we save for debate because we're kind of getting into debate rather than questions. Councillor Scott, if you're okay with that.
Yep, I'll pass it along.
Thank you. Councillor Boussier.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I'm not sure if it was debate or that was a cross-examination. You make me look gentle all of a sudden. Amanda, can you tell me where this came from? Like in terms of, were you directed to do an area service plan? Councillor Scott has me a little bit confused. So was this just something that came from, oh, we have an area that doesn't have an ASP, or was there a direction from previous council to get one done, or just best practice?
Through the chair to the question, Azela may be able to provide more context. I wasn't around at the time when this became a project, but my understanding is that in terms of guidance for future development, it wasn't coming, the Clearwater plan wasn't reflective of the community in Draper. And my understanding is that, and there's a few other things that happened in between that, but more recently when I came back into the planning and development department, the land use bylaw was being presented to council a few years back, and that there were some further engagements that were required to have with the Draper community. And through those engagements, my understanding was that the establishment of this area structure plan was part of that process to go out and understand what is it that community residents in Draper wanted and what they wanted to solidify in that area. I don't know if there's more you can add.
Yeah, there is a current ASP that has some policies about Draper, but it was created in 2000, so 26 years ago, and the policies are outdated. So there is no guidance on how to guide development in Draper, and we have had historically difficult situations that we don't have the policy to actually control or not control, but guide the development of what is happening. And then that's how this process started. And so talking to the residents about what they wanted and what was the vision was the important part of creating this document. So that's how we got into creating the policy that will guide future development in Draper.
So, to a number of things Councillor Scott was identifying as feeling like this would handcuff development. Is it the land, and I'm sorry I don't understand, but is it the land use bylaws that would be more defining? Like, just as an example, we have a sport master plan. I brought this up when we talked about the last games. We have a sport master plan, and the sport master plan said have a multi-sport game every 5 years. We just ignored that and voted to have 2 of them in 2 years. So is that the same with the area service plan? Because what I'm hearing from Councillor Scott is that this would handcuff development. Is that true?
Through the chair to the question, I don't agree with that statement. The land use bylaw is the prescriptive document. So in terms of the regulations on a lot, for example, when you're talking about setbacks and uses and what's permitted and what's discretionary, all those specific prescriptive pieces are in the land use bylaw. The area structure plan is intended to be more of an umbrella document that guides the land use bylaw. And there's other conversational pieces in there. For example, there's been a lot of discussion around outdoor community gathering space. Well, the need or desire for something like that would never come through on a land use bylaw. It comes through in community engagement, but the only appropriate document where something like that would live would be at a community level, which gets captured in an area structure plan.
Okay, thank you.
It's a community plan, essentially.
Yeah. So it's a community plan, but our land use bylaws are really
regulating it.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bussier. Councillor Vardy?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Thank you, Amanda, for the presentation. So I'm looking at our other structure plans: Anzac, Athabasca, Conklin, Saline Creek, Timberley, Willow Lake, Wood Buffalo Estates, a couple more. I can't really think of them. Is it best practice within our municipality to have area structure plans? That's my first question.
Through the chair to the question, yes, it's actually odd if we don't have them in our region.
Yeah.
Because we have so many of them.
So looking at the numbers that you provided, so we saw, my understanding, we have 53 dwellings within Draper, and our engagement was actually 51 households completed the survey, which is about a 96% completion. So is it safe to say that the comments that we're seeing in the engagement are at least a 90% representation of what the community wants? 96.4 if I want to be exact.
Through the chair to the question, Azela or Shailish might be able to add more clarity here, but my understanding is that 51 households were contacted. I don't think that all of them completed the survey. Is that correct?
I see dwellings within Draper was 53 dwellings as of 2026, or 2025, sorry.
Through the chair to the question, I believe 45 residents completed the survey. We reached out to 51 dwellings in the community at the time, so that was September, October 2024. And And there was a lot of interaction in the website and with the survey online.
To add to that, those are higher numbers percentage-wise than we typically would see. And these numbers here, 86%, 91, they're very high. They're typically not so close to like the 90 percentile. Obviously, the 44% is quite low, but it's through public engagement, it's not always clear that the majority of people are siding with one specific want, I guess, or need. It usually takes a little bit more digging for us to really see what residents want. With the Draper area structure plan and the engagement, the results were clear.
Yep. Perfect. Yep. So it's my understanding that we had a high number of people participate with high numbers, and this is also the best practices for the municipality for area structure plans. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Vardy. Councilor Allen?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just thought I'd bring forward a little bit of history on it, because, and certainly not debate, but as long as I've been involved, this has been a request of council. And I know it was Rene Rebus back in 2008 that kind of started the ball rolling. And Councillor Weigel now is the current representative for Sapre and Draper. Every subsequent representative or council representative for Draper and Sapre has requested why do we not have our own area structure plan to identify our community? So I'm glad that you finally had an opportunity to bring this forward. It's just a statutory document.
And you have a question, Councillor Allen?
No, but anyhow, just thought I'd offer that I just wanted to offer
honest.
that the history for the rest of it, but I'm going to save the debate for when we actually get to debate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please. Thank you. Councillor Scott?
Oh, he gets to debate. I do want to you keep saying that the land use bylaw is somehow a separate and apart from this whole process, but would you agree with me that the ASP is going to guide and govern the land use bylaw?
Through the chair to the question, yes, the hierarchy of plans should be that the ASP informs the land use bylaw.
So when this is, the ASP is basically going to determine what's in the land use bylaw ultimately. You want consistency, agreed?
Agree, but you do need to be aware that the land use bylaw, which was recently approved, is already in alignment with the draft area structure plan for Draper.
Yeah. So once again, I'm saying this is not required, but I'll leave that for debate.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Councillor Weigel, questions?
Thanks. I got some questions, Mayor. No problem. I'm the problem with the ASP, for sure. I'm the one yelling, "What's Draper?" So I'll own that. Yeah, that's a good question. It says 80% back on the percentage. 86% support providing infrastructure that meets municipal standards for rural areas. Wasn't sure. Is it not our plan? Is it in the plan to put in services like rural water and sewer and gas?
No, not at this time. There is challenges with including servicing on the ground in Draper Road. Perhaps somebody from Project Delivery may have more information, but that was the plan at the beginning, but it's not going to be expanded. So the services will be staying as they are.
So when we say 86% supports the municipal standard, rural water and sewer and gas would normally be a municipal standard, would it not?
The standard, I'm not sure that we have an actual service of standard service for rural service areas. It's not for everybody. I'm not sure that the actual geotechnical in the area will permit to allow for that to happen in the future. So at this point in time, we leave it like that. So, but this document can be reviewed and can be changed depending on what happens with the community.
Okay.
And how it grows, and maybe we will find some way to do it. I'm not sure.
Okay. Have we looked at coming down from the Saline Creek area with gas and water?
Elliot may have a better question, a better answer than me.
Through the chair to the question, comments and considerations. In general, water, sewer for Draper is not feasible due to the slope stability. So whether you come from the top or bottom, you're still going to have slope slides and things of that nature that impact your surface lines.
And so when we're talking about 86% supporting infrastructure municipal standards, what standards are we then talking about? Just having a road?
To the question, it was just to keep the services as they are. There is also services for fire, police, and everything that the municipality provides.
Okay, so not all the services, just the ones that you just mentioned. Just because it says municipal standards, and so to me, that's the encompassing standards that we have for the rural communities. And so I just want to, I don't know, it's a lot of these questions I guess I find, and I don't want to get into debate, seem ambiguous. Like 86% want to protect the Clearwater River, and I would love to know the 14% that don't want to protect the Clearwater River. It just, they seem pointed, and so I don't feel like they're, I know Councillor Scott was talking about, we're not getting detailed enough, but I feel like sometimes the questions are big, and so that's why I'm asking those questions. When we were talking about the development permit, when we're looking at the area structure plan, the development permit, if I was to build a deck, do I need a development permit?
To the chair to a question, yes.
If I was building a deck in Draper, would I need a geotechnical to build a deck?
Through the chair to a question, no. There is also, depending on what type of deck you are building, so there's some decks that don't need a development permit, but just, no, you wouldn't need.
And so I don't need a geotechnical for every development permit. It's just at the discretion. And so what becomes the line?
So I think that the policy that was mentioned was for new subdivisions.
Yeah.
So if there was a proposal for a new residential area or something like that, then we will need studies, especially because of the challenges in the area. There's a slope stability and flood.
Yeah.
So we need to ensure that development can happen in a responsible manner in Draper, and that is why we ask for those studies at front, so we understand what the land can, what capacity the land has, what density can happen, what services is needed in the future for example, a new subdivision.
So that's for a new build then, not necessarily an add-on. Is that correct?
That's
that
correct.
Makes sense? Okay, awesome. And then my last question for this, in this structure plan, it talks about areas to access the Clearwater River. Only 44% of Draper said they wanted that. Why did we include it?
In the policy that includes the access to the Clearwater River, says that we will investigate with the residents, that we will work with the residents on accesses to the river. The access to the river will also be for Draper residents.
Yes, but if only 44%, if less than half the people wanted that, why did we add it in?
Through the chair to the question, I see what you're saying. If isn't a majority of people saying that they wanted access to the Clearwater River,
Right.
Why would we touch on that?
Yeah.
I asked the same question when we were reviewing the ASP as well in final stage.
Yeah.
But the terminology that's used, I think it says in there, like investigate options to access the Clearwater River. There was nothing that's like committed to identifying like one or two specific access points within Draper to the Clearwater. But it was included so that it doesn't sort of take away the idea altogether. It's kind of like a clause that keeps it open if that's something that the community wants to explore in the future. But there's nothing that's tying it either way.
So it'd be the same as keeping a discretionary use on a land use bylaw.
It's just a general, it's not even a policy in the ASP. It's a reference to, that you can explore it in the future.
Right.
It's similar to some references with Parks and Recreation. They're kind of more general
Yeah.
references.
So again, the same general idea is that when you say like small holdings and it says discretionary use and it lists all the things because it can still be an option on the table later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Weigel. Does council have any other questions for administration? I'm not seeing any, so thank you all for the presentation. Do we have any written submissions?
There are no written submissions that have been received for this item.
And verbal, we have 2.
Yes, we have 2 registered delegates here this evening.
Perfect. Kimberly Jean? Oh, I didn't see you there. And just a reminder, just to say your name for the record. You have 5 minutes to present, and just remain seated for questions after, please.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kimberly Jean. I own 117 acres in Draper, 112 of which is raw boreal forest land. I'd like to preface with some context. I studied outdoor living skills with an elder for 2 years in the United States. I've taught bushcraft, I've lived in the bush, and I love the land. And I say this because what I'm about to say is not about opposing environmental stewardship or about building subdivisions. It's about property rights. And about a plan that is not ready to become law, in my opinion. Tonight, I'm asking Council to defer this Draper ASP. There are many reasons, but I will outline my top 5. First, seems administration has not done comparative work. So Draper is 3,200 acres within city limits. The province and the RMWB own the majority of the land in Draper. I agree with what Councillor Scott had mentioned earlier that no RMs in Alberta produce ASPs for communities similar to Draper, let alone very, very prescriptive ASPs. This ASP requires a geotechnical study for every new development application. Those are the words. All new development applications require a geotechnical study, so maybe reword it if that's not the intention. No, there's no minimum size, no risk threshold, no exceptions written into the ASP as it is. The geotechnical study here costs tens of thousands of dollars and can take months. Trust me, I know. It would also require the dedication of an environmental reserve easement, despite Draper being situated in the middle of 63,000 square kilometers of boreal forest. For every development application, also policy 2.1.5 requires an outline plan, defined as an intermediate planning document to bridge the gap between the ASP and a subdivision plan. But it doesn't just say this for subdivisions, it says this for every development application. So maybe rewording is required. Policy 2.1.6 and 2.1.6 and 2.1.7 add the potential for up to 9 additional studies, as Councillor Scott also outlined earlier. This is not proportionate regulation. I want to know, or you should maybe find out, what are other jurisdictions doing? Why are we so restrictive? So before council imposes these requirements on private landowners, administration, I think, should be directed to report on land use policy in at least 20 comparable rural riparian communities in Alberta. Draper currently has 93 adults and 44 children living in 3,200 acres. This community doesn't need a 10-year plan designed to ensure nothing is ever built. Second, the factual foundation of this plan is unreliable. The Draper Area Structure Plan cites 7 species as sensitive and at risk to justify development restrictions. Of these 7, only 2 hold a current federal designation that could be considered at risk, and 2 have provincial sensitive designations. The remaining 3 have no sensitive or at-risk designation at any level of government. This may seem like a small, nitpicky thing, but if the factual basis for property rights restrictions is inaccurate, council should ask how this happened and what other oversights might exist in this document as well before it becomes restrictive binding law. Third, this plan rests on a document with no legal force. The DASP repeatedly cites the 2003 Clearwater-Christina Rivers Management Plan as justification for restrictions, including river corridor setbacks, environmental reserve easements, and archaeological requirements, and more. That document explicitly states that it is neither legislative nor regulatory. It is advisory. It carries no statutory weight. So using a non-binding 23-year-old guidance document as primary justification for removing discretionary land uses from an entire community is not really defensible in my personal opinion. Environmental protections should be grounded in the MGA, the LARP, or provincial environmental legislation. Fourth, this plan has serious legal vulnerabilities and the municipality is exposed. Under the MGA, an ASP operates as a strategic framework level, as was discussed. Setbacks and parcel level standards belong in the land use bylaw. So when an ASP duplicates standards already in the LUB, it creates conflicts every time the LUB is amended, but the ASP isn't. This plan does exactly that, creates conflicts, or could. More importantly, the ASP includes a development setback measured from top of bank rather than high water mark. Top of bank has no statutory definition in Alberta law. High water mark is the recognized legal property boundary under the Alberta Surveys Act. When the municipality refuses a development permit based on an undefined measurement that doesn't correspond to the legal property boundary, it opens itself up to legal challenge for de facto expropriation at a cost to taxpayers. I would ask Council to request a legal opinion on whether the top of bank standard is defensible under the MGA before this ASP is adopted. Fifth, the review process was inadequate. The correct version of this ASP was not available online for public review until 1 week ago. Some Draper residents, those not on Facebook, were not advised of the deadline for written submissions until after the deadline had passed to submit those written submissions. This is a statutory plan that will bind private property for the next 10 years. Landowners did not have adequate time to review it, and some were denied the opportunity to participate entirely. That alone is grounds to defer and amend. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Does Council have any questions for the presenter? Councillor Scott?
Thanks for that presentation, Kim. If this passed, what would you see the impact on property values being?
Really, how do I put this? If there would be any value, I don't know how, all that would be allowed and doable to be built is a home. That's all. Our 117 acres, all we could do is have one home. So I think, property values would certainly not increase, in my opinion.
Do you have any other concerns with the ASP? I know you outlined a bunch related to some of the things you've identified. Did you identify any other concerns?
I may have a few. First, for the record, I definitely do not want my tax dollars going towards creating a public gathering space in Draper. I'm just going to say that for the record. I also think it's important to outline that there are 94 adults in Draper and 44 kids. And it just seems like a lot of resources are going towards something that is restrictive for such a small, unusual setting and area. I'm concerned about the fact that the ASP does not align with the LARP and the NDP, because the LARP and the MDP call for tourism and recreation development. Under this, as it's written, under this, there will be zero development in Draper because no one is going to invest the hundreds of thousands of dollars that's going to be required for all these studies and for doing an outline plan and for hiring the experts. It seems like overkill is such an inadequate word, in my opinion. What else? I have 11 pages of concerns, actually. When Draper residents were consulted, they were consulted on only a few land uses, not the ones that actually existed at the time. And you can see that in your agenda package if you review the survey. Let's see. Sorry, I don't want to take up all your time. We already talked about the community gathering space. Not prepared to spend my tax dollars on that if I get a say. There's a lot of talk in the ASP about land fragmentation, which in the LARP is described as fragmenting agricultural lands, but Draper no longer has any agricultural lands. So the ASP is talking about land fragmentation for subdivision, but it's a totally different purpose. So they're kind of repurposing the definition. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. Kim, you talked about the access to the information only came out a week ago. Can you explain?
Well, if someone was going to be looking for the Draper Area Structure Plan, what was online was not the correct one prior to a week ago. So if someone was reading it, they would have read something different. It's just, I think it's important to get accurate information. I already think that the 21 days of notice is really short, especially since, I have a very, very busy life. So for me I had to stay up to midnight multiple nights trying to go through all this stuff because, it's a short window, but 1 week is definitely too short.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Roussier.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Thanks for the presentation, Kim. Yeah. Can you tell me what your concern is with the community gathering space?
Well, I have no concern other than I don't want to spend my tax dollars on it. I also complained about the Fort McMurray Public Schools advertising on the radio because I don't want my tax dollars going to radio advertising for a public school, public system. So it's the same idea. Why would we spend our tax dollars on a gathering space for 93 adults in a small area of Fort McMurray when we have the Legion or something like that? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Obviously, we have a private gathering space that we have spent millions of dollars on that we would like to, we've already offered it free for Draper residents. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Boussier. Does Council have any other questions? Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Worship, and good to see you, Kim. Just a question. So are you proposing that we stay under the Highway 69 Clearwater River Valley ASP, the previous ASP?
Well, I think that probably, I think Draper should be under Fort McMurray because it's within city limits. Why wouldn't it be? But that's not my decision, right? So.
Well, it is outside of the urban service area as defined in the regional municipality. So it's identified as its own.
Mm-hmm. But ASPs are not required, as was discussed. So we don't need any ASP, really.
Right. But we do have one in place. So it's a matter of, do you think that it would be appropriate to stay with the old one as it is?
I would have to spend the hours and hours reviewing it. So, but it's from 2000, so it'll probably need to be updated as well, I'm assuming.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Does Council have any other questions for the presenter? Councillor Cardinal.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Kim, for your presentation. So are you wanting to develop Draper at all? Are you in support of developing Draper?
I would like the option to do something with my land. Right now, under this ASP, I have no options. Zero. I can't do anything with my land. 117 acres. I can't even put another house on it without spending like tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, plus tons of time, personal time. I'm just a person, right? So it's just very, like I said in my speech, it's disproportionate.
So, thanks for that. In communications with the Draper residents, I do recall you saying that your facility would be shared with the community. Does all the community know that?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks. That's all.
Yep.
Thanks, Councillor Cardinal. Does Council have any other questions for the presenter? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
And next we have Angela Smith. And Angela, if you could say your name for the record, and you have 5 minutes to present, and please remain seated for questions.
Good evening. My name is Angela Smith. I live in Draper, and I'm here tonight because the plan would directly affect my home, my livelihood, and my community. I want to start by telling you that Draper actually is, because I think this plan gets it wrong. Draper is a few minutes from downtown Fort McMurray, but it feels like a completely different world. You can hear the river, you can see wildlife. My nephew, who is autistic and learning disability, finds the peace there that he doesn't find anywhere else. We currently run an Airbnb on the property, and our guests, people from all over, come specifically for that experience, the quiet, the trees, the river, the wildness of it, the right of the edge of the city. That is Draper's value, and this ASP, as written, would make it nearly impossible to build on that value. I want to raise 3 concerns. The first is about economic opportunity. As you know, Draper's population has dropped by 26% since 2018. I believe this community needs investment, not restriction. And yet this plan responds to that decline by doubling down on residential-only policies. The province's own regional plan, the LARP, calls for tourism, recreation development in Draper. This ASP moves in the opposite direction. It would make the ability to create small outdoor recreation and tourism opportunities virtually impossible, and discourage the very use that could bring visitors, revenue, and families back to this region. I think that's a problem. My second concern is about this plan would cost ordinary people. I'm not a developer. I run a small Airbnb with my nephew, and I'm Métis. If I wanted to build an even modest addition, a cultural gathering space, a garden suite, or community garden, this ASP would require me to commission studies, lots of them. A geotechnical study, an environmental reserve assessment, and outline plan. The potential up to 9 more reports. The cost of all of that would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars and would take years. The ASP would require a 164-foot setback from the edge of the river for all development. This are just not reasonable requirements for a small property in the middle of the boreal forests. They are barriers designed, whether intentional or not, to make sure nothing ever gets built. My third concern is about the consultation process. I live in Draper. I was never shown the vision statement on page 25 of this plan. The one that claims to represent our community's vision, I didn't vote on it. Neither did my neighbors, as far as I've heard. The plan says the community approved it. That is simply not accurate. Draper residents who respond to the survey had real concerns and real ideas. Many of them asked for more development flexibility, not less. Many were confused by the questions in general. These voices were not reflected in the final document. I'm not asking council to necessarily reject an area structure plan altogether, but certainly to remedy the inaccuracies and ensure it actually reflects all voices, not just those that oppose a development of any kind. Draper's a special place. It deserves a balanced plan that treats it that way. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Does council have any questions for the presenter? Councillor Scott.
Thanks for that presentation. And I agree with. It's all right. So that happens to me all the time. People just wander off. And thanks for that presentation. What do you anticipate the impact would be to the value of properties if this passed?
I personally feel it will devalue the properties.
And you mentioned this consultation that supposedly took place. And how many residents in Draper do you know that participated in this or would be aware of it?
I don't know any who participated. Any of the neighbors I've spoke to never participated. And I know definitely I did not.
And just based on your interactions with your neighbors in Draper, do you feel like this is something they would be supportive of?
No.
Thanks, Councillor Scott. Does any other councillor have questions? Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Worship, and yes, thank you for your presentation, Angela. Is there anything specific that you would like to see amended? I mean, it's very general in a way as an area structure plan, but there's a lot of broad statements in there, and your statement about it restricting development is also very broad. So I'm just wondering if there's something specific that you would like to see opened up or made more flexible.
Well, I think like for me now to build a small cultural like garden, I need to get that passed. Like that's hours and hours and lots of money to do something so minute. Like I think it should be based on what the person's plan is. If you're planning $1 million investment, then yes. If you're planning a couple $100, you shouldn't have to.
But I think that's encompassed more under the land use bylaw as opposed to the area structure plan.
Okay.
But then I could be misinterpreting what you're looking for there as well. But the land use bylaw is going to dictate that a little bit in more detail. I'm just from an area structure plan perspective. I just wasn't sure if there was something there that you particularly saw troubling that was going to stop you from developing.
I haven't seen anything that troubling. No.
Okay, so there was
just the whole overall of control of what you'd like to do with your own property. I find troubling.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thanks, Councillor Allen. Any councillor have any other questions for the presenter? I'm not seeing any. Thanks, Angela. You're good now. You can run. Seeing this is a public hearing, does anybody else in the gallery wish to come forward to present? Octo? Just again, just say your name for the record. And you have 5 minutes to present. Just remain seated for questions, Octo.
Hi, for the record, my name is Octo Bishop. I'm mostly in support, actually, of the area structure plan. Though I don't live specifically in Draper, my family has gone to Draper countless times, spent hours there. My grandma used to go to the Dixon's farm so constantly that they would just let her out there with a knife and some salt to go get rhubarb. And sure, there are areas I may not agree with on this, but it's an essential aspect of not just Draper, but the whole region. Why should Draper be left out of having an area structure plan when every other area we have in the region has one? It gives a voice for every region at levels the land use bylaw is not at all able to. If council does anything, I think it should be just to consult again and make the minor changes needed, as seeing a lot of what has been spoken on and debated on despite question time was a lot of what I feel was probably miscommunication and smaller things, people not having clarity on certain bylaws. I don't think this restricts people from building a garden the same way it wouldn't restrict me from building a garden. It doesn't restrict me from putting a little free library on my lot. It doesn't restrict the same ways as like large developments. I understand frustration around perceived red tape, but there are quite a few times when red tape protects others. I'm not the greatest fan of red tape or rules, but I do step back and recognize that firstly, so many laws and regulations around things are often written in blood, and secondly, they usually have nuance that can be brought forward and adjusted if needing to, including right now. You don't have to throw out all of planning and development's hard work and the years they've spent, because what happens after this? Are we going to wait more years for a whole new structure plan, for a whole new vision, while Draper waits to be heard and has to continue on such an old plan? Doing this has been on the books for around 20 years. There's been 2 decades to gather people's thoughts, bring them forward, ask whatever questions were had, schedule appointments to voice concerns. The ASP is meant to not only guide developments, but give residents a forum to voice what they want for their area and to prevent developments that could harm residents, which is a special concern with slope studies and the areas that I've seen passing by that have the hills starting to collapse on them. updating the older one or making a separate new one will cost more tax dollars than have been cost already doing this when nobody seems to want to be spending their tax dollars on anything. There's not a small amount of things contained that wouldn't help residents. The requirement of clear signage to help emergency services is desperately needed. It's hard enough for ordinary people to get to their destination if they want to go meet a friend or go to their house or anything, let alone if you're in an emergency situation trying to get to someone's house that's burning down and you can't see from the street which house it is. And best practice for the country, the province, and even other individual communities does not always mean best practice for us. We will always say how we're unique and no other community on the planet is like ours, and that is incredibly true, especially in this. We are not Edmonton, we are not whatever other rural community, we're not the rest of Alberta, we're not Newfoundland, we're not the Northwest Territories, we are our own separate place that has our own separate needs, and if we were simply to go by best practices of other places, there would be nothing that makes us unique and special because we would have rules that don't fit us. From what I've heard in the questions and from the time spent, the plan has been informed by a vast majority of the community. I don't remember the exact numbers Councillor Vardy said, but somewhere around 96% of the entire community had spoken on things. And to address some of the things, the law doesn't necessarily always reflect reality. The law doesn't always reflect what is moral and ethical. The law is always open to interpretation. So basing decisions solely on the letter of the law and not the spirit of the law would wind up harming people. And especially for things like species that need protection, if we are going to hold ourselves to account by virtue of simply what the province has told us is an endangered species is perfectly safe when we can see different things with our own eyes, why are we going to let the people that continually let us down and, dare I say, harm us sometimes, decide what is best for us when we continually, as a municipality, have to do their job?
Thank you, Octo. You started to get heated there at the end. Why don't you calm down?
Oh, I wrote this while I was listening to everyone, so.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for the presenter? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Octo. Does anyone else in the gallery wish to present? Shane? Just for the record, Shane, just say your name, and you have 5 minutes to present, and just stay for questions, please. Just hit the mic there, Shane. There you go. You're
Hello,
good.
my name is Shane Kidd, and I'm a local resident of Fort McMurray for 50 years. Okay. I'm not savvy with barely know how to answer my phone. I might be way off the wing here because I didn't, excuse is I didn't read anything or study anything about the area structure plan. I'm not sure if I'm honing in on one thing specifically for my use or my benefit, so I'll just ask this. I have 10 acres of land. I've finally got my permits and I'm developing my land or my house there, and I'm the happiest guy in all of Alberta. The question is in the future, if I want to subdivide that land, it's 9.6 acres and very quickly shrinking because of the river. Am I able to subdivide that piece of property in half? And from what I understand, at one time I was, because it was technically a 10-acre piece at one time, but gradually we're losing land because of the river. At this stage, am I able to cut or subdivide, or is even this a question for the area structure plan, or is this a concern I have with the development, but is it something to do with the area structure plan?
No, great question, everything, Shane. But what I'll do is I've written your question down. For right now, it's just for presenting for us to ask you questions in your presentation, but I've written your question down, so when we go back to administration, I'll make sure to ask that exact question for that piece of property.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone have any questions? Nothing. You're good,
Thanks.
Shane. Thank you. Does council have any other further questions for administration? Councillor Boussier?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. My question's to Amanda. Amanda, I heard from Councillor Scott and then Kim and I think Angela about building a garden, building a deck. They're all saying it needs a geotech study. You said no, did you not? I need some clarity on what, did you say no? That's inaccurate?
Through the chair to the question, in the area structure plan, it says, section 2.1.6 that has all the, I think they said there was 9 different studies that would be required. It is may be required. That's not a prescription of must. There's 9 that could be required for larger development. For something like a small deck or a garden, that's not something that we would ever typically ask for such a comprehensive study on. I have noted, though, that there is a section in the ASP, section 2.1.2, where it says shall, which pretty much means must. And if council is considering what a change to the document could look like, I think that would be something that you may want to consider changing from shall to may.
So shall about the same thing?
It's about, I think it was under subdivision that the outline plan would be required. That's the only area where it's prescriptive that it must be required. All the other references made this evening about requiring 9 different documents and it's going to cost hundreds of thousands. This is in relation to a list in the area structure plan that is prefaced by the word may.
Okay.
It's not must.
Right. So and the argument obviously is that there could be an overreach. I think that's what Councillor Scott was getting at. There could be an overreach by government and Kim that one would be required. So, okay, thank you. And then my last question, are you comfortable with the level of engagement that you did with Draper residents? Not you, but we as a municipality did. Well, that's my question. Are you comfortable with the level of engagement?
Through the chair to the question, I am. I feel like this has been going on for many, many years. You can't talk to every single person in one community. The LUB and the MDP engagements that occurred did also go out with the Draper area structure plan, and it fed elements of the LUB engagement, and MDP fed the Draper area structure plan. There was a comment made about the document not being easily accessible on the website, and I agree with that. The version that was on our website was the previous draft. On the council agenda, though, when it got uploaded, I believe it was for first reading, which was probably over 3 weeks ago, I'm assuming, that was the correct version.
3 weeks ago?
I believe the chief legislative officer can probably confirm that information for us.
Thank you, Amanda. Through the chair, I can confirm that the bylaw that's before council this evening was published to our website on Friday, May the 22nd, when it was presented for first reading and setting a public hearing date on May 26th.
So
in council's agenda package.
And the supporting documentation, like the one that Kim was referring to, was uploaded then too?
This document that's before council?
The corrected one.
This was on council's website, yes.
May 22nd?
That's correct.
Yeah, which admittedly, I don't blame Kim for feeling like it's not enough time. I often feel that way with her agenda packages too. So, okay. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you.
I'll ask a question for someone. Amanda, if you want to turn your mic back on. If a resident has 10 acres of land, does this prohibit them from dividing it into 2 parcels?
Through the chair to the question, I just reviewed after the question just came in front of council. So under country residential, it's around 2.5 acres minimum. And then under small holdings, it's around 5 acres minimum.
So they can divide
in the case of this question, it would be acceptable.
But I've lost land because of the river. I'm not at 10 acres anymore.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Councillor Weigel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To that piece, and I guess, Amanda, you might have just answered this. Are there lots currently in Draper smaller than 5 acres?
Through the chair to the question, I don't believe so. I don't know if Azalea has any more context there. We can. Yes, there are. Okay. And we can go back and pull the map there and get the exact number of lots.
Okay. And so back to the original question for Mr. Kidd or Shane is just if he has a 10-acre lot and he's trying to subdivide it into 5 and it's currently a small holdings, he cannot divide that. Is that correct?
Under small holdings, from what I just reviewed, it's 5 acres minimum. And under country residential, 2.5 acres minimum.
So he is on the river, which is small holdings, is it not?
Correct.
So he would not be able to subdivide that as this stands.
We'd have to get the actual dimensions of the site. Like, I think it's more appropriate that we probably.
But if his site is under 10, he can't put it into 2 because he wouldn't have 2 5-acre lots.
So if you had a site that's.
Say 9.5.
Under small holdings.
Yes.
And he had a 10-acre site, you could potentially subdivide to 2. If you had a 10-acre site in country residential, you could potentially subdivide to 4.
Right. So currently he has a 9.5 section in small holdings. He cannot then divide it into 2 because he would not then have 2 5-acre lots.
He potentially, we'd have to look into the exact file, but you could potentially just carve off the 5.
But then wouldn't that leave one under 5?
Yeah, it would leave the 4.6.
Have to let the river take the rest away.
Not developable.
I'd have to go back to look at the variance, if there's a variance that we could apply to it. I can't commit to this right now without having.
Okay.
The
It's
actual
just a
in
hypothetical.
front of
Like
me.
it was just, if it's a 9.5, you can't put it into 2. One would be under 5 and would not be able to do it. Okay.
Going on that logic, correct. I would like to ask the team if there is a variance in there.
Right.
And if there isn't a variance in there, that might be something that we might want to consider in the ASP.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Scott?
Just in relation to the question about the subdivision, and I think you've already seen it, Amanda, but 2.1.2 would require him to get a site-specific geotechnical study, correct? As it's currently written. I'm just reading the words. It says all new subdivision and development applications shall include a site-specific geotechnical study.
I'm just referencing it here on my screen.
2.1.2.
I think that's common practice.
Yeah. How much is it?
Well, how much is a geological study? I paid $16,000. I had 2 of them done. Hopefully I get to do another one.
Through the chair to the question or to Councillor Scott, yes, section 2.1.2 where it says shall, that's the section I mentioned earlier that you may want to consider using the verbiage may.
Yeah, I'm just reading it the way it is now. And I just want to point out to everyone, and Amanda, you can comment, you've mentioned that it's a may for all these provisions that may require these documents, but it's may at the discretion of the municipality, right?
Correct.
So even though you might be the most reasonable human being, the next person in your chair, they could require all these, or some of them, or none. We're relying on the good faith of whoever ends up in your position.
Through the chair to the comment, I guess, I mean, if you apply that logic, it would run through on pretty much everything planning and development does.
That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Boussier?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Amanda, based on the concerns that you've heard through like Councillor Scott and others, would it be true that we could take the area structure plan for every area and essentially pick it apart on individual, is that kind of, that feels like to me what we're doing here is there's a couple situations that don't meet particular people's needs. And so they're speaking out against it. Fair enough, that's what you do to advocate for yourself. But would that not be true for every area? Like, I'm technically in a flood zone. I'm higher than the 7th floor of this building, but I got told to evacuate when there was a flood downtown. The hospital would have been like, I don't know, 10 feet of water before I flooded, but I was told I needed to evacuate because I'm downtown. Like, is that the same? Is that what we're dealing with here?
Through the chair, to the question, yes, you could pick any statutory plan apart and you'll find stuff there that won't suit your needs or will suit your needs. If you look at Draper in particular, I can't remember how many years ago, I think it was in and around the time of the wildfire when there was slope failure, the municipality was getting blamed for allowing houses to be built along the slope line. So if you want a scenario where we're approaching development in a responsible manner, then these are the things that you need to consider. Unless the municipality wants to open it all up and not have those checks and balances in place, then that's okay too, but we can't have it both ways. And unfortunately, in this world of development and planning, the line isn't always black and white. The site conditions are different. What people are trying to build is different. The scale is different. And it's hard to create a hard and fast rule for every single lot in the region. There needs to be language like may or to the discretion of, in order for our professionals who are ensuring that these developments are happening in a controlled and responsible way are happening safely. Now, having said that, I also do recognize and respect a lot of the comments that are being made around overregulation in general with planning development. I see it myself when we're dealing with the land use bylaw. Sometimes I'm starting to see areas in which maybe we are a little bit more erring on the side of caution. And through some of the motions that have been brought forward to council in the last few months, we're taking a different look and seeing if there are different ways to slice certain regulations or rules. In the case of this Draper area structure plan, there does need to be some provision for geotechnical, topographical, slope stability, flood. There has to be consideration for that. That's the nature of this area that we're creating a plan for.
Okay, and then my last question is, so if this passed tonight and Mrs. Jean is restricted in maybe some vision that they have, what's her recourse?
Through the chair to the question or comment, the ironic thing is this area structure plan is not as restrictive as the land use bylaw is. So even if you weren't to approve any of this evening, the restrictions are in the land use bylaw right now. The recourse would be anyone could put in for a land use bylaw amendment or an area structure plan amendment and come forward to council.
And so it wasn't my last question, my apologies. And how long would that process take? Like, what kind of barriers would we be putting up for people who had a need to have things changed?
So if a land use bylaw amendment was coming forward and it was straightforward, and say if it aligned with the municipal development plan, it made sense, it was similar to the character of the area, and administration felt that we could get on board and recommend the same, it's a smoother process because administration would be able to come forward in front of council and say that we agree with this land use bylaw amendment. In that case, we can get in front of council and it's still kind of pushing it within 2 to 3 months. If it is a complex land use bylaw amendment that requires understanding what the actual change is and what it's for, what impact it can have, was the community engaged, that could take a year in some cases.
Oh, okay.
Depending on the scale of it.
Long time.
And how far off-site it is from the current condition of the area.
Okay, thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Boussier. And Director Owens, just for information purposes, if the land use or the ASP is accepted or isn't accepted, does that change the land use bylaw? Like with geotechnical slope stability, is that already still required in land use bylaw no matter what, if we have an ASP or not?
Through the chair to the question, in the land use bylaw, it does outline study requirements as well that may be required. So no, the intention doesn't really change. I would like to go back to that comment I made, 2.1.2. I agree that language there with shall, it should be changed to may.
Thank you, Director Owens. Councilor Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to go back just to clarify on the area structure plan when it got released. It was in the council report on May 22nd and then re-released with this council package. But I think what we were talking about is that if you went to the municipal website and went in to look at Draper area structure plan, it was the old one until last Tuesday. Is that correct, Director Owens?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to clarify. So for people, and if you go to the municipal website and go to the Draper area structure plan, that's where it got uploaded. That's where a lot of people were looking for it. And so not everybody went to the council agenda. So just to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Weigel. Council, any other questions for administration? Does administration want to add any other further comments? No. I'll now declare this hearing go. Sorry, Councilor Weigel.
Am I in or no? Yes.
You made it just
all right.
Right in the
Sorry,
nick of
IT,
time.
I didn't mean to grab the mic like this. I apologize. I know. I felt it. We asked why we have an ASP coming, and I want to take ownership of. I didn't ask for an
Just
ASP.
right now, it's just questions.
Oh, I thought you said debate.
No, I did not.
Oh, don't even listen properly.
Thank you. With that, I'll now declare the public hearing closed at 6:55 p.m. From that, there'll be no further questions or information gathering. Coming out of public hearing we now have second and third readings of bylaw number 26/017, Draper Area Structure Plan for council consideration. Can I have someone make the motion for second reading? Councilor Boussier?
So moved, and I'd like to make an amendment, and I don't know where I'm supposed to tell you
Okay,
that.
so how the process would be is you read this, and then following that, and once it's seconded, you can make a motion for an amendment, and then we'll second your amended motion, then we'll debate your amended motion, then we'll vote in your amended motion, and go back to the second reading again. Does that make sense?
Yep, ish.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll
I
help
move
you.
that bylaw number 26/017, being Draper Area Structure Plan, be read a second time. What?
Oh, did he? And thanks to Councilor, second Councilor Al, and now Councilor Boussier, do you want to read your amended motion? Sorry.
I just wanted to change, I don't have a motion. I just wanted to change the shall to may where appropriate. Oh,
Okay.
she has something
Can
drafted?
you put that up for her?
Yeah, so we'll get that reflected on your tablets in front of you, council members. Councilor Luana, can you just confirm that that's the intent once you see that on your computer?
I see the bylaw. Oh, yep. I move that bylaw number 26/017 be amended by replacing the word shall with may in objective 2.1, section 2.1.2.
And thank you for the second, Councilor Van Castian. Councilor Van, any questions, comments, or debates?
On the amendment?
On the amendment, on the amended motion, yes. I'll call for a vote. This is just on the amendment, only amendment. Councilor Marcel? In favor on the amendment, thank you. And that is carried with 9 in favor. Now I'll go back to the original motion. Does council have any debate, discussion, or comments? For the second reading, Councilor Scott.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to oppose this. This is unnecessary. This is exactly what people talk about when they talk about red tape. It's an area structure plan that is unnecessary. If you do a plain reading of section 633, it tells you when an area structure plan is should be considered. This is not those situations. We already have a situation where there's rules in place, and we're trying to layer on top rules. And the area structure plan sets the direction for the future. So this is, in my view, a perfect example of what you do not want to do as a council, which is create regulations that for no good purpose. And that's exactly what I see. It's for no good purpose. I had an uncle. I'll just tell a very quick story, and I think it'll summarize this. He said to me, and he passed away now, he said, government needs to get out of the way. And he owned a farm. And he said, the government's not going to tell me what to do. And I never really understood what he was talking about till I became elected. And I saw how much government tries to intervene in people's lives because they think they know better. We know better, so we're going to tell you how to develop your life. People can make their choices and do things accordingly. We do not have to tell everybody what they should be restricted from. People can have some freedom. And I would encourage us to start defeating regulations that just add a layer of red tape for no purpose.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now I'll get back to my earlier speech.
Thank you.
I'm probably one of the reasons that this came up is that I think every council meeting I say, what is Draper? And it's a constant go. And I don't know if this document in itself gives it identity. But one of I have a couple little worries about things like Shane's land that might not be able to get developed, although he's had it for a long time and he wants to give it to his kids, and a couple other little things. One other my issue with this is that the public in itself hasn't been able to see it long enough. We have residents away. We have residents that aren't on Facebook and are online that have not seen this document. My worry is that they don't have a voice on this. We've done lots of engagement pre to this point, and I want to thank administration. You have worked very hard on this, and I do appreciate all the hard work that's gone in, but we've lost that Draper voice. I think Angela said, that vision statement doesn't feel like it represents her, and there's a lot of Draper residents that haven't even seen the vision statement of what is said that represents them. As Director Owens has said, whether this passes tonight or not, it doesn't change the land use bylaw. And so it's not going to change anything going forward right now, whether we accept it or not. But I just think it's too early, and we just haven't talked to the residents that this is going to impact yet to be able to make a decision tonight. And so I, as the words of Councillor Scott, would encourage my colleagues not to accept this at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Vardy.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Will respect the comments of my colleagues. However, looking at the timeline, the engagement has been thorough and throughout many, many years. The recommendations and the vision was created by the engagement of the people. And so I don't know if it's the right process to engage, create, and then engage again to do a temperature check. Couple comments. I did some research when we were talking, and Fort McKay has their area structure plan, and this was approved in 2018 actually, and some of my colleagues were on council at the time. 3.1.3 is actually specifically taken that part of environmental impact assessment, geotech study. So this is not actually a new framework that we've created. We've actually been doing this for more than a decade within the communities that are close to the river. Individual property rights are not greater than the collective rights of our community, and they're not greater than the rights of environmental stewardship. I'd like to remind my colleagues that last council meeting, we approved our water strategy and committed to our region and our Indigenous partners that we will be smart stewards of the water and take care of it. A failure to provide environmental protection through any structure plan is, in my opinion, a failure on council, which needs to be included in some sort of scope within these agreements, within these area structure plans. Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Vardy. Councillor Cardinal.
Thanks, Mayor. I think that Draper is kind of like the Métis, in between. I don't know which way it's going, but I was looking at some of the key findings and the messaging around Draper itself, and I guess like building the infrastructure. Then we don't want to give it rural water and sewer, and there's no key indicators as what we're actually doing with Draper. That's why I should get him a sweater that says "What is Draper," right? But I'm not going to be supporting the area structure plan as it stands, but I did want to say appreciate the delegates that came up, because obviously it's important that you showed up here today and to fight for what you guys believe in. I appreciate that, and sometimes that's how democracy works, for the people that show up to these council meetings and fight for what it is that they would like to see. One of the reasons why I won't be supporting is because I feel that there's a different path forward that we can find with Draper, and it deserves the attention. I'm glad that it's gaining a little bit of friction, but the way that it stands right now, I'm not going to support the motion as it is right now. But I wanted to elaborate a little bit on how Councillor Scott's mentions of how government puts so much in place for residents around communities, and in specific Indigenous people, about all the torment and all the stuff we went through the past, and it kind of reflected some of that stuff, and how the government has shaped people into being the way that they want them to be, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. So I appreciate that, and that means a lot to hear something like that. So I won't be supporting the motion as it is, and I feel that if we want to maintain integrity and values in Draper, I think that we need to start finding out what is Draper. So thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Cardinal. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Your Worship. And we have a lot of different opinions coming forward tonight, and I agree with several of my colleagues. Councillor Vardy, you bring up some good points on the environment. Thank you. All I can tell you is that the worst thing we can do is nothing. I have been listening to this debate for next year will be 20 years, and we've had nothing for a Draper area structure plan. We've been on the Highway 69 Clearwater River ASP, which is really not conducive to what Draper represents. I don't see a whole lot of challenges with the ASP as it's written right now. We have laws, we have legislation, we have regulations, we have processes. This is a statutory document, which is an overreaching document as to how we develop other things. Those other things are also amendable. So if someone is having challenges with getting a development done, you have problems with getting a permit, you have problems, you have the opportunity to bring that forward and to challenge that. And council has the opportunity to go forward and change that. So I just don't have an appetite to turn this down or to not move forward with it. Councillor Weigel made a comment about wishing that there was more opportunity for the residents to get a chance to read it and digest it. I have no problems with deferring it a little bit to achieve that goal if that's what you wish for the communities that you represent. But again, I see in this ASP that the guiding document is to preserve the rural character, responsible land use, environmental stewardship. It's a guiding document. And then everything else we do after that has to meet those standards under the area structure plan. So that's really what it's intended to do. Land use bylaws when we get into the nitty-gritty, and I'll be happy to debate land use bylaw with anybody. But with an ASP, I think this is the appropriate ASP for that region. So I will be supporting it as it sits right now, and I will also be happy to defer it if that's what Councillor Weigel would like to do.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the comments of all my colleagues. I just want to kind of talk about some of them. Councillor Vardy, you brought up some really good points. And when I was talking about engaging the community, I wasn't looking for necessarily another engagement session, but I would hate for the people of Janvier to have an overreaching document that they never got a chance to read. A lot of these residents, and I could ask the question to community services or planning and development, if a resident was not following Facebook or one of our government sites, would they have known that this was ever going to come up tonight?
Through the chair to the question, I would say that for most council agenda items.
Yeah, and that's fair. Draper's got a little bit older population, and as well as this is big. Draper has a population that you can almost reach every single person, and I just know there's some of them that just aren't there. And so, as I appreciate that, I don't think there's enough time for them to have read it. I'm not looking for another engagement. I just want them to know that on paper it says this is your vision, and I'd like them to know and be able to have a voice of, is that their vision? With the environmental stewardship, I think that's on the hearts of everybody. I think we live in the boreal forest. I think it's massive that we take care of it. Almost thing we talk about is about environmental stewardship. I don't think the ASP is the stopgap that if we don't have it, then it gives us the ability to go out and do it. It's in our MDP and our LUB. This is another great specific for Draper, and I'm not necessarily against an ASP as itself, but I don't think we've worked so hard to get here. Are we good with good enough? What I've heard is that we're almost there. There's some things need to change. We have one resident that might not be able to, divide his land because it's not exactly at 10 acres and he can't give it to 2 of his children. And so to me, those are little things that we're so close that we can relook at this and move it forward, have it come back, defer it, whatever we want. But I as a councillor out there, I'd love to hear from more of the residents on where they're at. Because we and myself, and I will state the ignorance of myself, when talking with people, I went to the website and went to the Draper Area Structure Plan, thinking that it was way outdated. And then I phoned Amanda going, what's going on here? And she let me know that that was not the right one, that I had to use the one on the council package. So there was 2 different living documents on our website that said 2 different things. I don't think we're there yet. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think that environmental stewardship's there. I think it lives in all the other documents and is a very good point. But I just think that for the residents, they should have a chance to read something that is their vision. And I get that not every council, we have to be engaged with council when stuff pertains to us, but this is their whole community. This is their livelihood. This is the residents they've been paying the mortgage on for years. And I think they need a chance to see it.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Boussier.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Are you proposing a time frame?
Either to defer or even bring it back. I think
we have to vote on this anyways, right?
Yeah. But completely different motion. Right now, we're debating the motion that's on the floor for the amended second reading of the amended bylaw that you amended.
Okay. Well, I agree with Councillor Allen in terms of we need a guiding document. Also, don't want to be in the way of development. So I think what I'm hearing tonight is it's more land use bylaws and stuff that will govern that. But I agree that we need to give residents time to review the document and provide feedback.
Thank you, Councillor Boussier. Councillor Scott?
Yeah, I would just emphasize that I encourage everyone to simply defeat this. There's no need to circulate it. It's, in my humble opinion, a document that it's not worthy of Draper or this community.
Councillor, any comments, question, debate points? Councillor Cardinal.
Hey, Mayor, one last thing I guess I did want to add, if we owned our properties in, let's say, Draper, and, we always have to go through these loopholes to try to make it better for our families and, provide some insight as to what the future may hold for our children or for our family. And we always have to go through these barriers and policies and land use bylaws and ASPs, MDPs, all that stuff. I understand some of it, but I understand that some of it does in urban has to be mandated, but I just feel that we're putting too much ahead of the community, and the area structure plan needs to be obviously re-looked at or just defeated tonight. So I still won't be supporting the motion. Thanks.
Is Councillor Cardinal, Councillor Bousquet?
Yeah, I'm really sorry, but I need some clarity because Councillor Scott's saying defeat this and basically don't have an area structure plan. Other people are saying, no, we need, Councillor Allen is saying we need a guiding document, and then other people are saying we need it changed and we need it amended. So if this gets defeated, is the direction then that we're not having an area structure plan for Draper? We're not working to improve the one we have? We're doing nothing?
Okay, so I'll try to answer what I can.
Thank you.
What I know. If you defeat it, that's defeated. I'll defer to Director Owens for where we're at there. If you choose to defer it, we can defer it and bring it back, but the public hearing wouldn't open again, so there'd be no new information provided, nobody speaking in favor or against it. We would just get the document, do what we're doing right now, debate it, and vote on that. Does that make sense?
No, because you're asking us to vote. We're being asked to vote on whether or not we approve this. Period.
Right. Yeah, so you can make a motion to amend it, to make it deferred, to defer it. On that, right now, you can make an amendment now to defer it. We'll vote on that amendment. We'll debate it, then we'll vote on it. But what I'm saying is if it's deferred and another document comes back with the shalls changed to mays, the hearing doesn't reopen. Correct. We're still at the same spot we are now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Or are you going to amend?
And Director Owens, if it's a direct no, where does that leave us? Just with no ASB?
Through the chair to council or to the question, if it's the desire of council not to have an area structure plan for Draper, we don't legally need to have one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So did that answer all your questions, Councillor Bouzier? Does council have any other questions, comments, or debate? I'm not seeing any. I'll call for a vote. Councillor Marcel, in favor or against? Is that in favor? Okay, thank you, Councillor Marcel. And that's defeated with 4 in favor. So that's done. I'm going to take a quick break here with council, but I do want to address something one of the councilors brought up today. They were asking about us speaking with the Minister of Transportation, and if you're not on Facebook, you don't know what's going on. But I will let you know that been in constant conversation with the Minister of Transportation regarding the highway through Fort McMurray, Highway 63. And most recently, the Minister on May the 5th, and as early as last Thursday, has committed to helping or working with our administration, taking over the strip of highway through town, the 18 kilometers, and funding us maintaining it in the spring and summer. So just so the community knows that we're constantly advocating with the province for that piece of highway. So with that, we'll take a short break. We'll be back at 7:30. Welcome back, everyone. Next up, we have the report on the Draper Voluntary Buyout Assessment Deposition. I'd like to invite Community Service and Project Delivery and Facility Services to introduce the report, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Elliot White. I am speaking on behalf of administration as the Director of the Product Management and Facility Services. With me is Janelle Fleury. She is one of the managers of Community Services. And to my right is Christine Smith. She's Acting Director of Legal Services. We are here to present the Draper Voluntary Buyout. And we are here to provide some recommendations on our next steps. You'll commonly hear the term VBO, which refers to the voluntary buyout. So just as an outline, we'll provide the recommendations that the administration has, a bit of the background, current status, implications to our situation, budget, financial, and alternatives in conclusion. So our recommendation by administration is that administration be directed to demolish all remaining structures and complete related site cleanup at all properties required in the Draper community through the voluntary buyout program, the VBO program. And number two is to manage the demolition process and salvaging materials where reasonable for the purposes of diverting from the landfill, and complete demolitions with site cleanup at all properties and conclude the VBO program. So I'm going to provide some context here in the background. All of this conversation stemmed from the flood that occurred in 2020. The reason this program came to be is that the community of Draper, the flood risk couldn't be mitigated, so we introduced an accommodation. One of those accommodations was a voluntary buyout program. So in January 2023, Council approved the flood accommodation for the community of Draper, and they directed us to return in March. So we did return in March 2023, and we presented a voluntary buyout program. We were directed at that time to conduct appraisals on all properties interested and eligible for the program and report back. We did that exercise, and in July 2023, we returned with an update on the VBO. Council provided direction to administration to proceed with offering an immediate voluntary buyout of properties with dwellings that had a main floor elevation of 250.9 meters or less in Draper at assessed values used for the 2023 taxation year, and that voluntary buyout be offered until September 12, 2023. Further, we returned in August about requesting additional $2,500 for legal costs. That was defeated. In February 2024, Council requested that administration review and bring forward options for the land acquired associated with the buyouts for Council consideration, including the possible selling of the properties through real estate listings. So in June 2024, Council requested that administration salvage and demolish 6 residential properties and to keep 3 for future municipal or community use, as well as appropriately redesign and rezone all VBO properties. So to clarify, there was 9 residential properties that were involved in the voluntary buyout. So 6 was to be demolished, and 3 were to be kept for future municipal community use. Just on a side note here, we did keep a shop, a rather large garage. We looked at that for potential use as well. So that structure still remains standing today. So the current status, as per council direction, the 3 most viable properties were selected by an interdepartmental working group, and those properties have continued to be maintained, as well as the large shop or garage that I referred to earlier. 6 of the properties were salvaged and demolished in 2025, And then the new land use bylaw included new regulations for development in the flood management area, including these properties. So some of the items that we generally talk about when it comes to owning properties in the flood zone is liabilities associated with those homes. Public safety, emergency management risk. We talk about public confidence in our decisions in terms of reputational risk, governance and administration burden, and operational risk. So that's we continue to, bylaw goes down a couple times a week. We go down. Facilities goes down once a month, just to keep an eye on things as per our insurance policies. And then we have life cycle costs, obviously, continuing to maintain these assets as financial cost and risk. So from a budget side of things, we estimate the cost of demolishing the 4 remaining structures to be approximately $400,000. That's a Class B. It's generally difficult to estimate cost of demolishing because it depends sometimes on how sharp pencils are of some of the vendors and depends on what can be salvaged from the property that may be of value to those that bid it. In 2023, they were appraised, the 3 parcels were appraised at just under $700,000. So I'm going to pass it to Janelle to talk about the alternatives that we discussed internally.
Thank you. Looking backwards, alternatives considered to this evening's recommendation included 1, an expression of interest process with high risk appetite for municipal and nonprofit exposure. While there may be a social market for the properties, administration was lacking critical information to launch an expression of interest without criteria to evaluate and fairly award proposals outside of the procurement process. An expression of interest process, therefore, was not advertised and no proposals were collected. To successfully advertise the opportunity would have required advertising acceptable uses, requirements in business planning, and probable costs and social profit for social profit proponents. A phased approach to obtain probable costs would have been taken to ensure properties are enabled for community or municipal use. And by this, we mean estimating full costs for remediation, evaluating costs of permits and construction. This involves several unknowns and does not take the cost of leasehold improvements or total cost of ownership into account. And those were things that we did not have the information for. A second alternative considered was building relocations. However, probable relocation costs exceed the structural value of the homes and are impeded by load dimensions, route clearances, and may require substantial expenses to piece structures back together. So these alternatives were not sought through. And looking forward, I pass it back to Director White to provide conclusions.
So in conclusions, where you have a motion in front of you to demolish the residential buildings, accessory structures, and complete all related cleanup, as well as the large garage. And that would conclude the voluntary buyout program. We would manage that demolition process and salvage materials where reasonable to divert from the landfill. And we would also complete the demolitions with site cleanup at all 3 properties and conclude the program. Thank you for your time, and we are available for questions and cross-examination.
Just questions.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Director Elliott and Janelle. I just have a quick question. As we talk about a community gathering space, I know we're doing a overall approach, going through all the communities, making sure there's a space there for community. The space where that garage is now, if that's taken away, would that be the recommended spot that we put a community space? That would be basically up to the level that would be protected from flood?
So through the chair to that question, so we are looking at that property where that shop sits as the potential for the open space area for the community, yes.
Okay, and we'll just build it so that it's mitigated for flood. That'll be protected or flood proof.
Okay, through the chair to that question, the shop is quite low in terms of elevation, so it would be very difficult to protect it from.
No, I mean if everything's taken out of that space, we put something there.
We would be building a open space / park in a floodplain, no different than say the Snipe Point.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Your Worship. So in the presentation, in the timeline there, it states that, I wasn't here then, so excuse my ignorance, but the one of the options for consideration was selling the properties through a real estate listing. Did we exercise anything with that, or was there a reason why it was just not completed?
It was contemplated, but it wasn't fully realized. And there was conversations around literally putting the house as is on the market for sale to any potential buyer.
So I mean, if there were people out there that wanted to purchase the buildings as opposed to spending money to demolish them, and they were prepared to take them as is, would that still be an option today?
Through the chair to that question, I think to clarify, I believe anything is possible. You know what I mean? If for all intents and purposes, I mean, if direction from mayor and council is X or Y or Z, we can deliver. In terms of the real estate listing, we have to understand what the intent of the program was. The intent of the program was to remove risk from residents that live in Draper and live within the floodplain. And so just simply putting them back on the market as is reintroduces that risk to potential people.
And I recall, because the original VBO was being debated and discussed in the previous council prior to that. And then it was withdrawn at one point. But I didn't know what happened in the next term. It's just there, and I hadn't heard anything about this contemplation right now until, of course, the report comes forward. Now I'm hearing from all kinds of different folks, individuals that might be interested in purchasing, individuals that are social profit groups that wanted to have an opportunity to put some kind of bid or proposal in as to how they could utilize the buildings. So are we, have we considered any of those? But I know right now, Janelle, you said that there was challenges about how you put it out for expressions of interest.
Through the chair to Councillor Allen, that's correct. There were challenges without knowing the intended use or having information to provide to the social profit on how we would evaluate their proposals, because we wouldn't be doing it through a procurement process where we're not necessarily looking for a bid to sell the properties at market value. As Director White mentioned, that would potentially conflict with the intention of the voluntary bio program. So we were looking for a way to meet the intention of the resolution at the time, but without criteria to advertise, we weren't able to do that. So we may have been able to collect proposals blindly, but we wouldn't then know how to assess those proposals. And we'd be bringing back recommendations without very well-informed analysis.
So something like that would require another motion that was well prepared and well documented to give clear direction, because I'm familiar with the concept of it's not the intent of the motion, but the wording of the motion. Is there any legal reason why we couldn't perhaps come back and like defer this today and then look at an opportunity to either A, sell or repurpose for social profit use?
Through the chair to the question, you can do that. There are always risks associated with that. If we maintain ownership, then there's risks under the occupier's liability, depending on if they're reasonable use factors we don't know yet, so we couldn't evaluate. Also, if there's known deficiencies, selling it to someone with those also can raise some risks as well. So it just depends on the sort of, I guess, the circumstances of the sale and the factors around that, what that risk level would be.
Okay, but so am I fair to assume that the potential is there rather than demolishing them, if there's a way that could be used in good faith by anyone? My understanding when we first passed or were discussed having a VBO after the flood was it was to give an opportunity to people that were going to be concerned about being there with the risk once the province pulled the There would be no more offer of any damage funds coming forward if it was to flood again. And my understanding is we could still have that as a caveat on any land title, and you could just make it part of the purchase, that the buyer of that property or the whoever's taking over the property would be aware of that risk, and there is no way for them to come back on, or we wouldn't have any liability as a municipality?
Through the chair to the question, to say you'll never have liability is a false question or a false comment. You can do things to protect yourself. There's never a guarantee that someone will not initiate an action. You can do everything sort of in your power, but there's no guarantee.
That's true. We've seen that before, too. Okay, well, I'm going to chew on this a little bit, and I'll let my colleagues speak, but I still think there's opportunity to do something with these buildings rather than just straight demolishing them.
Thanks, Councillor Allen. Councillor Bussier?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I guess, Janelle, this is to you. So I remember being a citizen watching all of this unfold, and as a nonprofit leader, very excited at the prospect that this could support a nonprofit in providing supports and services to vulnerable people. So I was incredibly excited that that could come to fruition. You say that you couldn't accept expressions of interest because you weren't clear on parameters. What was done to get clarity over, it's been 2 years, over those 2 years? What's been done to bring that to fruition?
Through the chair to Councillor Bussier, so it's true that it has been 2 years since we were asked to look at the most viable properties. That assessment was completed in mid to late 2024. And then a working group came together internally to look at establishing a criteria for an expression of interest, which we felt that the resolution lacked the direction that we required. So there were internal conversations, but I can't speak to how information may have went up or disseminated to seek further clarity.
I guess for me, the direction, I know what the motion was. Actually, Councillor Vardy and I went back and read the actual motion, but I also vividly remember kind of how that conversation went that night and Amber presenting. And since then, I know that McMurray Métis is very interested in having some land-based healing going on in that area, that this is an opportunity for them to do that. We have a commitment to the calls to action. So do you believe there are things that can be done to work with the nonprofits to find a way forward? Maybe for you, Christine, to divest of these properties as a municipality and do the best that you can in terms of a legal document. You've taught us very clearly we're always going to have a level of risk. So how much risk are we willing to take on? Well, I'm willing to take on some to support the vulnerable populations and not tear down 3 properties that we've been told are perfectly good properties, but they're at a 1 to 200 level. So can you draw up a document, a legal document, that has us divesting of this and for a nominal fee, turning them over to whoever it is that's decided if we defer this for a while?
Through the chair to the question, yes, we can. There can be legal documents drafted that mitigate the risk. They'll never absolutely get rid of them. Some of that depends on the circumstances, what will be included in those agreements, having to have the engagement with the organizations to find out what their intended use, because that may have to be included in an agreement as well. But yes, there are steps we can take to mitigate that risk.
Okay, thank you. And CAO, because IRR isn't here, if we were able to work with McMurray Métis or any Indigenous group that was looking to do some land-based healing, would you see this as helping the municipality address the calls to action and being a good partner as we committed to with our nations and Métis?
Through the chair to the question, Councillor Bussier, We have discussed with IRR, opportunities to do that within community, especially in the urban center. I would say Director Fraser's appetite to do things of this nature is very rich in, delivering against his 33 calls to action in TRC. So I think it'd be a favorable place for him to approach that with some local Indigenous groups.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Boussier. Councillor Allen, question?
Yeah, just a question. Because it was brought up again, the previous motion to look at those options, was that motion ever brought back and rescinded, or did it just kind of die?
Through the chair, which motion are you referring to? Are you referring to the?
Was motion to look at the different options for the properties? Was that I think Councillor Boussier just brought up?
Are you referring to the bring forward options and look at potentially selling?
Selling or social profit?
Yeah. So in June 2024, we came with multiple options,
and that's when when it changed. Okay.
So it was we looked at relocation, lifting the homes to that elevation that's required, demolition, and selling, and that we recommended demolition.
Okay, so at this point, I mean, it's still possible if we were to, could we put a motion forward to defer this for another period? I'd say till before the end of the recess period to see if there's
Once
still...
we finish questions, we can look at a motion. Councillor Allen?
Right.
Does Council have any other questions? I think so. Thanks, Chanel. Thanks, Elliot.
The only thing that I would add, Mayor Bowman, to that last comment is that if we're going to try to rush this decision prior to recess, we got to consider boards and social profits will require time to understand exactly what their commitments would be in a social setting. So we may need more runway, would be my only comment to that.
Thanks, CEO. You have a motion? Okay. Any councillor wants to make a motion, just turn your light on. Councillor Cardinal?
Okay, thanks, Mayor. I got a motion related to the properties. I, Councillor Kendra Cardinal, move that the 3 remaining properties be sold for a nominal rate to the McMurray Métis to be utilized for homelessness initiatives and for the land-based learning teachings, and that administration work with McMurray Métis to create the vision together.
I'm not seeing a second. Do we have a second for that motion? I'm not seeing a second, Councillor Cardinal. Does anyone else, do we have any other motions? Councillor Van de Castian?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Draper voluntary buyout assessment disposition be deferred to the beginning of Q4 2026.
And thank you for second, Councillor Vardy. Council have any questions, comments, or debate points? Councillor Boussier?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I guess I want an amendment. I don't know if I can just do that now, but I just want some more meat. Pardon me, Mike? a friendly amendment, an angry amendment, whatever. I just want some clarity around what we want and some descriptors in there that we don't want this dragging out, not for the people of Draper or anybody, like that it have some clear stuff to it, what we're going to accomplish in that.
Because the way it reads right now, it'll bring back the same report will come back, but it gives us more time for could be community groups to come forward, that read the information to come forward to council when it comes back, is what it basically would deferring it right now would do. The same report would come back with the way the motion is right now.
But Janelle's got no further direction other than go away with the same nondescript information.
Amend it to.
Okay. Yeah, I want them to have discussions, not necessarily putting out an expression of interest, but discussions with Indigenous stakeholders about potential use of the 3 homes and land.
Okay, so maybe even a question to Janelle.
But I don't want to just there because I don't want to upset other.
Janelle, the only question is how many social profits or Indigenous groups or anybody have approached with questions at this point? Not so much put together a proposal, but just any question at all.
Through the chair, we had one organization reach out that had heard there had been discussions following that council meeting in 2024 that said if an opportunity became available, they were interested. That was the extent of the conversation.
Okay.
And then I'm aware that some of my other colleagues have had conversations as well with a few other rights holders.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Allen?
Thank you. If I may, just even for consideration, if we can even do this, but to open that up so that it would be open to individuals and or social profits to bring forward an expression of interest or to just express an interest in the properties. And then we have an opportunity to, again, then decide if there's going to be parameters around that.
We were talking about divesting our risk. So I think we had heard before the risk is much higher if it's individuals. Is that not right, Christine? That we're, or no? Like,
I think the risk is there with anything.
I thought it was higher
change of
with
properties, but
Through the chair to the question, the risk is there whether it's an individual or an organization. It's what they choose to do with the land. That may be where your parameters come in and sort of any restrictions you put on to sort of evaluate whatever interest comes in with respect to those lands.
So for me, I guess what this was about and what I remember watching at council was it specifically going to the use of the nonprofit sector and feel a lot different with like it being sold to like an individual who like what took a buyout and then turns around and buys their house back. Like what do we buy them out for?
I would suggest those folks are already long gone, but or purchase something else.
Nope.
And so Councillor Van de Kasten is your motion. So how would you like to accept a friendly amendment from Councillor Boussier for starters?
I would accept Councillor Boussier's amendment. I don't agree with the opening up to individuals. Sure, we bought them out to move individuals out, to open it up to individuals coming back. I don't think is fair to the taxpayer, and I think we do need a framework and to be able to, like we've been told, we will never be risk free, but there are a great many things we can do to mitigate that risk as much as possible, and we come back with those kind of options. So I would accept Councillor Boussier's amendment.
And what is that? So we're going to take a motion recess right now just to make sure we have the right wording for everyone. So we'll just stay in the room here. Welcome back, everyone. As we've had a new motion after the motion recess, Councillor Van de Kasten, you want to withdraw your motion?
Yes, I'll withdraw my motion to defer.
Thank you. And do we have a new motion? Councillor Bussier?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I move that the Chief Administrative Officer be authorized to negotiate the sale of the 3 remaining properties based on conditions and intended use appropriate to the area.
Thank you, and thank you for the second. Who seconded that? I did. Councillor Cardinal? Councillor Van de Kasten seconded. Thank you. Is Councillor Councillor Bussier, would you like to speak to that motion?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Yeah, I just want to ensure that all options are explored in terms of using these 3 houses for community good, for a vulnerable population, whether that is healing, land-based healing, whatever the case may be. Probably should have had in there that I don't intend it to be sold to an individual, but for community good. So I'll trust the CAO to go off and do that.
Thank you, Councillor Bussier. Councillor Van de Kasten?
Thank you, Mayor. And I would propose a friendly amendment to speak to what Councillor Bussier just said about specifically excluding sales to individuals. It must be negotiated and sold to a not-for-profit group. Well,
I agree with that.
Yeah, not-for-profit or charitable organization.
Is that good with you, Councillor Bussier? Thank you. Councillor Weigel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, I guess, to Councillor Bussier. What's an appropriate use?
Community good for a vulnerable population to help towards healing, social good, social procurement, any of those things. Not living, like not an individual buying the place to live there, but for charitable causes, whether that be a charity or nonprofit, but for charitable causes.
Okay. So any type of vulnerable population? So addictions, homeless. Anybody else?
I leave it up to the CAO's discretion.
Okay.
Like ideally, it's not. Ideally, it would be land-based healing.
That's your hope.
That would be my hope. That is an unmet need that's quite large. That we have a commitment as a council to truth and reconciliation. We've invested a lot of time and commitment into being good partners with our Indigenous governments and people, and I would hope that it would be that. I know the CAO is very clear on what our strategic priorities are, and I trust that he will align with our strategic priorities.
Okay. This is just questions right now, right, Mayor? Okay.
This is a debate. There's no speaking after the motion's made.
I guess here's my worry is that, and I trust the CEO, I think he's amazing, but I worry that any non-for-profit can go on there. Draper didn't sign up for this. We told them that we were going to take these properties. The last one was about community use, which can be interpreted this way, and I know the council meeting looked that way. I do agree with that. But we were also looking at a community hall, community use, those types of things. I think we land here, any type of nonprofit can go in there, really build a structure, and now continue down that path once they buy it. in my opinion, this isn't what Draper signed up for, and I can't agree with this. I love the idea of land-based using the Indigenous getting back there, but this opens it up to any disclosed, and in my opinion, we're shoving it down Draper's throat. I can't support this.
If we only had an area structure plan that helped us outline this. Couldn't resist. It's not to create stress for the residents of Draper. I have heard them. I'm okay being more specific. Well, I don't want to, I was going to say, but at the risk of offending the nonprofit sector or certain vulnerable populations, I'm okay being more specific. I was just trying to keep it open.
I think Councillor Boussier, as Councillor Weigel's points, I do get that too. And I think maybe this might be a motion to be more specific so that it doesn't the community doesn't think that maybe there's something that it's too open. So I think if you're good with being more specific, I think it'd be amendable for council.
So now do I have to amend my own amendment? What a gong show. Sorry, Jade.
You can just amend it.
Do I amend my own motion?
Yeah.
Okay, that the chief administrative officer be authorized to negotiate the sale of up to 3 remaining properties based on council's commitment to truth and reconciliation efforts. Is that better? Nope.
Councillor Weigel?
Thank you. Does that need to be seconded before we talk about this?
Yes.
Okay, can I have a second for that?
Do we need another break? What do you want it to say, Stu? I want to demolish the properties.
And thank you for second, Councillor Vardy. Go ahead, Councillor Weigel.
Thank you. So the way this reads, I want to ask the question, if we sell this to the Métis, which would be Great Land Use Learnings, are they able then to build a center or a building or something on this property?
Whatever they want, ASAP.
Still land use bylaws.
I might defer to Director Owens if I get this wrong, but currently we would be writing the rules of engagement via our legal team to ensure that the liabilities and risk would be taken away from the RMWB, but be restricted to the property that exists.
Yeah, I guess one of the worries that comes up when we're talking about development in Draper, the residents have talked a lot about traffic and uses down there. If there is now a large building down there, say we sell 2 of the properties side by side, they put a large building down there that is driving traffic down that now Draper has not asked for. And so are we limiting that? Because I would, especially in Indigenous or Métis, I would never want to tell them what they can and can't do to their land.
As acquiring the parcel of property would come with those rules of engagement. Yeah. So it'd be for land-based teachings, land-based learnings, and land-based healing. We can be that prescriptive in the arrangement.
Okay.
That's my intent.
My second question is, are the properties is one of those 3 properties the ones with the garage or the shop on it right now? And so if so, then are we walking away from that being a gathering place in Draper?
Through the chair to the question. So, 3 properties, 3 buildings on them, which were homes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 4th property where we demolished the previous home and left the shop.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a 4th property in question with the shop on it. The idea is that we have a capital project to develop an open space call it a park in Draper, that property would be used for that park.
Is the adjacent property, does it have a property on it or no? So there was two properties side by side on the buyout. Well, Tina and Tony's is still there, but there's the one with the shop, the one right beside it. Does that house still exist, or is that open now? I'm trying to remember.
I would have to look into the files, and I can do that rather quickly, but.
Yeah, if you don't mind, it will sway my vote.
So, to the question, what is it that you particularly want to achieve?
I want to make sure that Draper still has a place to gather. They've been, that's been part of the continuous conversation there. That shop we've designated as a great idea. I've talked to Draper residents. They also believe that to be a great area. If we own both parcels, that's, that now becomes the place where we access the river. It opens up the opportunities. So it looks better. So that's just a curiosity piece of mine. The other piece is that, I would never want to hand over something, land to Indigenous and then prescribe what they're doing. And so at the same time, I want to make sure that Draper residents are heard, and that is my job.
Okay. Through the chair to the question, the property that we're referring to that we plan to put a park on is quite a large property with the shop. So we wouldn't need the adjacent land. Regardless of whether there's
how many acres? 49 acres? Yeah. Okay. That's big.
It's big, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Van de Castian.
Thank you, Mayor. To say this is messy, I think would be insulting to a mess. Councillor Weigel made a excellent point of we're kind of cramming this down Draper's throat. When we were about to defer, we were opening conversation, and now we're prescribing disposition. So I know I withdrew my original motion, but I can't support this the way it is, and I think we should go back to defer and open the conversation and not just prescribe something. I agree. Where we've changed the rules of engagement here.
It's Councillor Van de Castian. Councillor Allen.
I have to agree with you as well, Councillor Van de Castian. I think it's just keep it open. The original motion to defer that was there, just it's open. We can. It allows us. It prescribes us more flexibility, and we all know what the intent is, but we need that flexibility as well.
Thanks, Councillor Allen. It's Councillor Van. Yes, she does. Go ahead, Councillor Boussier.
I was just going to withdraw my motion then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that motion is withdrawn. Councillor Van de Castian.
And I'll put mine back.
And do you want to, I can't find it. It's in the long list of motions back
Give me
here.
a hot second.
That Draper voluntary.
That Draper voluntary buyout asset disposition be deferred to the beginning of Q4 2026.
Perfect. Okay, thanks for the second, Councillor Brandt. Councillor Van de Castian, do you want to speak to your motion?
I think I already did. I'm good.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor, any questions, comments, or debate points? Councillor Weigel.
I just want to thank my colleagues for understanding the position and that just taking the community into consideration as we move forward. And I appreciate taking the time to do this right. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Councillor Weigel. And I agree with your statements, as well as I really think having a plan for that open space for community space, that much space, it could be something really the community can be proud of. With that, I will call for a vote. Councillor Marcel in line. In favor. Thank you, Councillor Marcel. And that's carried with 8 in favor. Thanks, everyone. That's it for this evening. Marcy Cho, Kinwas Compton, have a good night. See you next week.